Chapter 961. Revenge Must Be Taken. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. He was a reputable figure in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect and an ancient realm expert. However, he was brutally beaten up in front of so many disciples today, so Gao Shun was really furious. Damn it, you audacious lunatic, I'll fight you to the death. After he fiercely said these words, Gao Shun immediately flung his sleeves around, wanting to fight Yi Zan again, but he was stopped by Ao Lei in time. Senior brother Ao, what are you doing? Gao Shun said this with a face full of resentment. Junior brother Gao, you should stop. You're no match for him at all. I'm not convinced. Even if I have to risk my old bones breaking, I have to fight him. The angry Gao Shun was already beyond the point of caring about such things, and still wanted to fight. Ao Lei waved his hand helplessly and looked at Yi Zan. Junior brother Yi, it seems that there's no other way. I can't persuade him. Don't be too ruthless when you attack later. No matter what, we're still fellow sect members. You have to let him retain a little dignity. After hearing this, Gao Shun's heart instantly trembled. Seeing the teasing look on his senior brother's face, he immediately understood. Then, he looked at Yi Zan. After pondering for a while, he instantly understood. Beastard brat, Yi Zan. I'll FCK you to death. Gao Shun became even angrier at this moment now that he knew that the person standing in front of him was Yi Zan, especially when he recalled how Yi Zan had abused him just now. He felt as if he had been made a fool of. Also, senior brother Ao already knew that he was facing Yi Zan, but did not tell him. Was this clearly not a signal to Yi Zan to beat him up? This was really too unethical. Seeing that Gao Shun still wanted to fight with him, Yi Zan immediately said, all right, stop it already. That's enough. Even if you continue fighting, the outcome won't change at all, and you'll only suffer more. Let's get back on track. After hearing these words, Gao Shun gritted his teeth even more at this moment. Seriously, he had actually got beaten up for nothing just now. Touching his face, Gao Shun realized that his face was burning and hurting. At this moment, he also knew that Yi Zan had used this opportunity to vent. Otherwise, his face would not have been repeatedly targeted. Gao Shun rolled his eyes at Yi Zan in a huff and turned around helplessly. He focused on healing his face first. Junior brother, how did you get here? Seeing that the two had stopped fighting, Ao Lei finally asked a question. Not long ago, they had been attacked by the Immortal Divine Sect, including Gongsun Ming, and had ended up captured and moved to this place. Only a few of them managed to escape the grasp of the Immortal Divine Sect. Nearly 99% of them had been caught, and they had suffered serious casualties. Originally, Ao Lei felt that the sect would face a calamity in this situation, but Yi Zan's appearance here gave him hope. Yi Zan looked around and realized that many disciples were injured, which made him furious. After calming down for a moment, he said, I waited for a long time on the upper level of the ancient palace, but I didn't see any of the sect's disciples. Even when I asked Yuyu, she told me that she didn't see anyone while she was longer be suppressed. To him, the Great Wilderness Divine Sect was his home, and whoever messed with it exploring the ancient palace. As such, I realized that something might have gone wrong and went looking for you all. Fortunately, I was vigilant enough. Otherwise, this would have been really a dangerous situation. Yi Zan felt extremely lucky at this moment, but the anger in his heart could no longer be suppressed. To him, the Great Wilderness Divine Sect was his home, and whoever messed with it had to die, no matter who it was. Since Gongsun Ming had dared to scheme against the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, he would naturally have to suffer the consequences. After hearing Yi Zan's words, Ao Lei and the others felt extremely fortunate. Fortunately, Yi Zan was vigilant enough and discovered that something was wrong. Otherwise, they would probably really die of old age in this cave. For the past few days, they had been ambushed by ghosts every day. They had not had a good night's sleep at all, and could only passively defend themselves. If it were not for the two ancient realm experts, Ao Lei and Gao Shun, guarding them, perhaps all the disciples of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect would have died. As they thought about it, the sect's disciples became even angrier, and could not wait to attack the Immortal Divine Sect and exact their revenge. Li Dahai said angrily, if it weren't for the senior brother Ao and senior brother Gao taking turns to guard us, I'm afraid that there would be very few of us left. No matter what, we must take revenge. Lu Shu's eyes were filled with indignation as he said, Senior brother Ao, let's attack them. We must let them know that our sect cannot be trifled with like this. That's right, We've already exterminated the immortal divine sect once, so we can do it again. Hearing their hot-blooded words, Aolei was also invigorated. After thinking for a moment, he turned his gaze to Yizan and asked, Junior brother, can you defeat that old fart Gongsun Ming? Right now, the main problem was Gongsun Ming. Not only did he have many schemes, but he was also very powerful. Without his participation, the immortal divine sect would not have been able to ambush and capture them. Chapter 962. Backup Plan. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. If the Great Wilderness Divine Sect really wanted to wage war against the Immortal Divine Sect, the most important thing was to get rid of Gongsun Ming. If they could not defeat Gongsun Ming, the sect would suffer a crushing defeat. Seeing that everyone's attention had shifted to him, Yizan said confidently, haha. Isn't that a simple matter? Senior brothers, if you want to start a war, then go ahead. Don't worry, let me deal with Gongsun Ming. Yizan was very confident in himself, and firmly believed that he could easily deal with Gongsun Ming. Aolei and the others would deal with the rest of the Immortal Divine Sect. After all, there would definitely be casualties due to the huge grudge between the two sects. Furthermore, the newest disciples of the sect had yet to experience a bloody battle, so this would be a test of their courage. Only by passing this test would they be able to grow stronger in the future. After hearing Yizan's words, Aolei also made a prompt decision and ordered with a fierce expression, all members of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, heed my command. The extermination operation against the Immortal Divine Sect will begin immediately. From now on, kill anyone from the Immortal Divine Sect that we come across, no matter who they are. We will teach them the price of antagonizing our sect. After hearing this, a series of heart-shaking shouts immediately rang out in the forest. The Great Wilderness Divine Sect will be triumphant. The Immortal Divine Sect must perish. Seeing their hot-blooded expressions, Yizan also felt his blood boil. After this battle, the forces of the 8 continents would realize the might of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. Then, he turned to look at Wang Fuqi, who immediately trembled. The latter could also sense the killing intent and hatred everyone had toward the Immortal Divine Sect, and began to worry for his sect. Would they be able to withstand the wrath of these people? Unfortunately, he would play no part in this battle. Yizan looked around and said, Senior brother Ao, we shouldn't stay here for long. Let's leave this place first before discussing our plans. For some reason, Yizan felt that something was wrong. At this moment, Aolei also felt that they should not stay in this place any longer. He instructed the disciples of the Great Desolate Divine Sect to follow Yizan's lead, and to leave this place as soon as possible. However, just as they were about to escape from this area, another seal descended from the above, blocking their path. After discovering this situation, Yizan's expression turned ugly, and many of the disciples were bewildered. What happened? The path in front of them had been completely sealed off, and they could no longer move forward. At this moment, Yizan also clearly realized that this was definitely a trap within a trap. Even Wang Fuqi did not know about this. Gongsun Ming, this old fellow, really went all out. The moment the seal descended, Yizan saw the change in Wang Fuqi's expression. The latter was also very shocked. That was right, even Wang Fuqi did not know that there was a seal here. Gongsun Ming had already predicted that these people were likely to capitulate, so he added a hidden seal in the cave to ensure that even if someone betrayed him, the outcome would not change. At this moment, Wang Fuqi felt as if his heart had been hammered, and his eyes had lost all their luster. He had always been selflessly contributing to the Immortal Divine Sect and had made countless contributions. However, who would have thought that the sect's ancestor would distrust him? You seem very shocked. After seeing Wang Fuqi's expression, Yizan said coldly, don't you understand? In Gongsun Ming's heart, you are all just chess pieces that can be abandoned at any time. Your lives are worthless in Gongsun Ming's eyes. This is the true nature of the person you believe in, ha ha ha. Hearing Yizan's mockery, Wang Fuqi had completely collapsed and muttered, it can't be like this. How could the ancestor treat me like that? No. At that moment, Wang Fuqi felt as if his world had collapsed. He had always been loyal to the ancestor, but he had been mercilessly abandoned. Hearing his crazed muttering, Yizan laughed even more. This is the truth. You're not a fool, so you should understand what's going on. You just don't want to accept it. After that, Yizan no longer cared about him and did not take his life. In a sense, this was a form of torture as well. Gong Sun Ming had completely disregarded the life and death of his own people, which was the height of ruthlessness and viciousness. Turning around, Yi Zan began to examine the seal in front of him. It was worth mentioning that Gong Sun Ming was very good at seals. If Yi Zan and the others wanted to escape, then they had to remove this seal. Otherwise, they would be trapped here forever. Junior brother, what should we do now? Aolei looked at Yi Zan and asked. Everyone else did as well. After all, in this situation, only Yi Zan had the ability to save them. Chapter 963, Forbidden Lord. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. What should we do? The corners of Yi Zan's mouth curled up. Given this current situation, he could only think of ways to break this seal. Yi Zan was still lacking in the aspect of seals. With his current attainments in the field, he might not be able to break it. However, since the situation had already developed to this point, Yi Zan could also take this opportunity to seriously study this seal and improve his knowledge in the area of seals. That being said, there was something he needed to do first. He turned to the injured people behind him, and took out a large number of recovery pills. Adjust your conditions first. We'll talk more once everyone has recovered. In the meantime, I'll study this seal and try to figure out the mysteries it contains. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zan handed these pills to Aolei and asked him to distribute them. Then, he put his full focus onto the seal, probing and investigating it using his spiritual sense, trying to find a flaw. However, at this moment, a dense amount of energy was suddenly transmitted through the seal. Yi Zan immediately followed the trail of this energy and chased after it. In the endless abyss below, Yi Zan vaguely sensed a huge cage filled with the aura of death. Oh my god! Yi Zan's heart could not help but tremble. He was extremely surprised, as he had not expected there to be such a huge cage hidden in the ground underneath their feet. Without much hesitation, Yi Zan immediately decided to use his spiritual sense to find out who or what was trapped in the cage. You guys stay here and protect me. I'll be using my soul to check something. He also turned around and looked at Aolei as he said this. He then sat down cross-legged and allowed his soul to float out, heading straight for the huge cage below. He could see some dilapidated ancient ruins nearby, which were filled with ghosts. Moments later, his soul reached a high platform, from which he could see a figure firmly bound by chains in the cage. As if sensing his presence, the man in the cage with tattered clothes and messy hair also looked in Yi Zan's direction. Just by looking at this man's face, one could tell that he was definitely full of stories. At this moment, the man moved slightly, which caused the chains to make a strange sound, which sounded jarring in this dead silent environment. I've already forgotten how many years have passed since I last saw a living cultivator. Yi Zan frowned and looked at the person in front of him. He could sense an extreme indifference from this person, as if nothing could pique his interest. Who exactly are you? Yi Zan could not help but ask. After hearing this question, the man raised his head to look at the blood moon in the sky and replied with a bitter expression, "Haha, I've been trapped here for too long. Even if you ask me who I am, I've already forgotten." Quote. I vaguely remember that others called me the Forbidden Lord. As soon as he finished speaking, the man instantly released an extremely terrifying aura, causing Yi Zan's heart to tremble uncontrollably. It was as if he was facing the Grim Reaper. This person was ridiculously powerful. He could clearly sense that this person in front of him was much stronger than any opponent he had ever encountered. However, what surprised Yi Zan the most was why such a terrifying expert was imprisoned here. Just how terrifying was the expert who imprisoned him here back then? Forbidden Lord. Yi Zan's brows furrowed slightly as he examined this person for clues. However, no matter how hard Yi Zan tried, he realized that he could not see through this man at all. It was as if this person was wrapped in chaos and could not be touched. Indeed, some people call me the executioner, and some call me the Lord of the burial ground. However, most people call me the Forbidden Lord. After saying this, he seemed to become immersed in his own memories. Perhaps it was because he had not spoken to anyone for too long, so he seemed unusually conversational at the moment. In the end, Yi Zan asked the question that was bothering him the most. For what reason were you imprisoned here? Hearing this, the Forbidden Lord seemed to sink into his memories, and scenes of the past flashed through his mind, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. He covered his head and kept shaking. That's right. Why am I imprisoned here? Why exactly? After a while, he seemed to have recalled something and said, "Young man, have you heard of the eternal tribulation?" Eternal tribulation. Yi Zan was dumbfounded by this reply. After all, this was the first time he had heard of this term. Yes, the eternal tribulation, a calamity that appeared at the beginning of the great chaos of the ancient era. This is also the root cause of the dark calamity. After saying this, the Forbidden Lord once again looked around him and said, "This place is also a forbidden zone. It was also my territory back then, and I'll be stuck here forever. I might forget some things, but how could I forget those dark days?" The Forbidden Lord smiled sadly and did not continue, leaving Yi Zan perplexed and confused. "What exactly is the eternal tribulation you mentioned? Can you be more specific?" However, the Forbidden Lord did not say anything. His eyes were fixed on Yi Zan, revealing a profound look. Seeing this, Yi Zan's hair stood on end. Why was this person staring at me like that? Chapter 964, A New Path. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. As if reading his mind, the Forbidden Lord instantly laughed out loud. "Young man, do you know what I just discovered?" "Oh, what?" Yi Zan felt even more confused at this moment, and thought that this person might have a screw loose. Otherwise, his train of thought would not be so scattered and all over the place. What was even going on in his head? The Forbidden Lord did not care about what Yi Zan was thinking at the moment. Instead, he spoke in a low voice, "I was divining your future just now. After countless years, I can only see a lonely back standing on the top of a 10,000-meter mountain. If I'm not wrong, you'll become one of the great movers of fate. Young man, I'm looking forward to your future." This was what the Forbidden Lord thought of Yi Zan. However, after hearing his words, Yi Zan felt a little surprised. However, this did little to alleviate his confusion. "What do you mean by mover of fate? What kind of future did you see? Can you be more detailed?" The Forbidden Lord waved his hand and replied, "Absolutely impossible. After all, you are too weak at the moment. If I tell you, it will only result in your death." Then, the Forbidden Lord seemed to have smelled a familiar smell, and his eyes were filled with shock. After a long while, he returned to his normal demeanor and continued, "In your body, I seem to detect the scent of an old friend. From this, it seems that some things are destined." After saying this, the Forbidden Lord laughed presumptuously again, which sounded extremely jarring in this quiet space. However, Yi Zan's hair stood on end, and his heart was filled with doubts. The scent of an old friend. Who was it? What was going on? Yi Zan was completely befuddled, and could only stare blankly, waiting for some sort of explanation. However, instead of explaining, the Forbidden Lord's gaze suddenly turned sharp, and then unleashed a wave of terrifying energy toward Yi Zan. Oh no. As Yi Zan was currently in the form of a soul, he was unable to unleash his full strength. He immediately tried to dodge, but soon realized that he had been firmly restrained and caught by the Forbidden Lord. At this moment, Yi Zan despaired, and he felt that he was done for. This fellow was too powerful. No matter how much he struggled, it was to no avail. Even though the Forbidden Lord was imprisoned and restrained, he could still unleash far more power in this state than Yi Zan. Even if Yi Zan's true body had been here, the result would have been the same. Yi Zan was even more confused. Would such a powerful person really be easily imprisoned here? However, after a while, Yi Zan realized that the Forbidden Lord did not hurt him. Instead, the latter was transmitting power into his body. What is he doing? Yi Zan was extremely surprised. After all, he could clearly sense that the power that the Forbidden Lord was transmitting into his body was extremely terrifying. At this time, the Forbidden Lord said unhurriedly, "Don't panic. Haha, I just wanted to test your talent. It won't harm you in any way." After a moment of investigation, a bright smile appeared on the face of the Forbidden Lord. Then, he said, "You've reached the sealed immortal realm, and haven't reached the eternal realm. That's good." "What are you talking about?" Yi Zan's face was filled with confusion. Why did he make it sound like that was a good thing? The Forbidden Lord did not hide anything and said, "To step into the eternal realm from the sealed immortal realm, one must be purified by the aura of the immortal Tao. This is something that everyone knows. Almost everyone does it. However, the ancestors had once walked a very long distance on this path, only to realize that this path was blocked in the end, and there was no way to continue cultivating. And this is the fundamental reason why we are unable to escape the eternal tribulation. During the countless years that I was imprisoned here, I was also constantly thinking about how to deal with it in order to break through the final stages. With the passage of time, I eventually gained some insight into the matter. In my opinion, the most important thing to transcend the eternal tribulation is the breakthrough to this realm. Hearing this, Yi Zan's eyes became much more serious. It was no wonder he had been feeling unusually uneasy in his heart recently and had never dared to take that last step and break through. So it turned out that there was something unusual about this realm. What exactly was this eternal tribulation? However, he knew that he would not get specifics on this, as the Forbidden Lord had said that he was not strong enough to know yet. The atmosphere at the scene froze once again. Yi Zan's eyes were still fixed on the Forbidden Lord, waiting for him to continue speaking. As time passed, the Forbidden Lord seemed to have calculated something new and said with a smile. Tao of Reincarnation. This is interesting. Based on the current situation, I'm not the only one who has discovered the problem. It was not clear what he had figured out, but the Forbidden Lord once again focused his attention on Yi Zan and said, "Young man, I have great expectations for you. In my opinion, your future will be bright, but you have to make a choice now." Oh, what choice? Yi Zan's curiosity was piqued, and he waited quietly for the Forbidden Lord to speak. "I won't hide it from you. After our generation's continuous exploration and experiments, we have already realized that the path we used to cultivate can't be continued. After experiencing the eternal tribulation, we, the experts who were lucky enough to survive, have been thinking about how we can safely survive the eternal tribulation. Due to this, I didn't hesitate to spend several eras searching for a new cultivation path." At this moment, Yi Zan held his breath. Was the Forbidden Lord going to teach him this new path? In fact, Yi Zan was also very eager for a top expert to guide him. After all, the cultivation path he had to tread in the future was too mysterious. Chapter 965. Yi Zan's Choice. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. He had no idea what came after the Eternal Realm, so if he relied on himself to explore what came after, it would be both risky and too slow. If he went in the wrong direction, he might even ruin his entire cultivation path. No matter how one put it, the path of immortal cultivation was heartless. It was like sailing against the current. If one did not advance, one would fall behind, and eventually fade into obscurity. If he had a senior to guide him, then his path would undoubtedly be much smoother. Someone as strong as the Forbidden Lord definitely had the qualifications to guide him. The Forbidden Lord was still staring at Yi Zan. After a while, he said, "Don't get too happy. After all, the choice I'm giving you is also full of uncertainties. Because I just comprehended this great Tao, no one before you has ever tried to cultivate it, not even me. Right now, I don't dare to say for sure whether this great Tao I've comprehended will be able to reach the end. It's just that this path is more likely to succeed than the original path. It's precisely because of this that I'm putting this choice before you. Which path you choose is entirely up to you." The Forbidden Lord was not in a hurry to urge Yi Zan to answer. He also wanted to see what choice Yi Zan would make. Even though he had already comprehended this great Tao, he could not cultivate it, as he had already gone down the original path. It was also for this reason that there was no way to know if this great Tao could reach the end. Actually, he also wanted to verify his guesses, and thus wanted Yi Zan to help him test it. Yi Zan guessed what the Forbidden Lord was thinking and frowned. It's just a path that is more likely to reach the end. Yi Zan's heart had already begun to waver. He did not know whether to trust this expert whom he had never met before. However, he had to make a choice now. After all, if the great Tao that the Forbidden Lord spoke of could really bring him to the end of the cultivation path, then he could not miss this opportunity. "Can you tell me in detail about this great Tao?" Yi Zan asked. At this moment, the Forbidden Lord smiled and waved his hand. In an instant, a ball of red light flashed in front of Yi Zan, putting him into a dazed state. He felt as if he had seen a ray of light amidst the darkness. Using the body as the Tao and blood as the guide. At this moment, Yi Zan suddenly recalled something and felt extremely shocked. Everything seemed to be destined. Not long ago, he had already checked and used his body to plant Tao flowers. He had even specially given this method to Aulay. Now seeing the great Tao that the Forbidden Lord was using a similar concept, he felt that the two complemented each other well. In this case, there was no need for him to cultivate a completely new great Tao, and could simply use his original foundation for this great Tao. Thinking this, Yi Zan was extremely excited. After all, the path of the great Tao that the Forbidden Lord created was complementary to his original cultivation path. Furthermore, since the Forbidden Lord could come up with a new path that was similar to his, it meant that he was the same type of cultivator as Yi Zan, which would increase the probability of success when cultivating this new path. What shocked Yi Zan the most was that not only had he discovered this great Tao path, but he had also discovered another great Tao path. The path of reincarnation. Isn't this the path Shang Yun took? Yi Zan looked at the Forbidden Lord in disbelief. However, after pondering for a moment, Yi Zan made his choice. Alright, let me be the pioneer of this path. I'll have to trouble you to teach me this great Tao. After hearing Yi Zan's words, the Forbidden Lord felt very happy. Alright, young man, I have high hopes for you. At this moment, the Forbidden Lord's absent-minded gaze seemed to light up. Then, he stretched out his palms toward Yi Zan and instantly transmitted an extremely terrifying power into Yi Zan's body. Young man, what you need to do now is to stick to your heart. Please let me guide you and help you step onto the path of the great Tao. Yi Zan had already sensed the extremely terrifying energy in his body and could not help but think to himself, oh my god, this feeling is really wonderful. He knew that if he wanted to, he could step into the eternal realm within a single second. However, at this moment, the Forbidden Lord was guiding him on the path, helping him to use his blood as a guide and use his body to shape the great Tao. Yi Zan did not resist, and followed the guidance of the Forbidden Lord as he began to comprehend the great Tao. However, before he could become too excited, he felt an unbearable pain in his body, causing his expression to twist and contort. Drops of blood slowly appeared on Yi Zan's skin. Within moments, he was covered in his own blood. Young man, grit your teeth and persevere. I spent countless years comprehending this great Tao. Those who walk this path must endure extremely intense pain. As long as you can endure it, your future path will be much smoother, the Forbidden Lord quickly said when he saw Yi Zan's situation. He did not want Yi Zan to give up halfway. Because Yi Zan's soul had left his body at the moment, after he began to comprehend the great Tao, his physical body also began to show signs of problems. Thus, the people from the Great Wilderness sect who were responsible for protecting Yi Zan also noticed that something was wrong. At this moment, Gao Shun came forward with a puzzled expression and examined Yi Zan's body. Senior brother, what's happening to junior brother Yi? Why was there so much blood coming out of his body? Hearing this, the other people also quickly turned their attention to Yi Zan's body. They could sense profound energy fluctuations emanating from his body. Chapter 966. Sever it. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Heavens! Lu Shu exclaimed, could it be that junior brother Yi is trying to break through? The aura he's releasing is too terrifying. At this moment, everyone was stunned. No matter how hard they racked their brains, they could not figure out what Yi Zan was doing. Where did his soul go at this time? When the soul was out of the body, the soul was the dominant self, so as long as something happened to the soul, the physical body would also change. However, since they could only see Yi Zan's body, they had no way of knowing what his soul was experiencing. Aolei's brows were furrowed as he stared at Yi Zan. After a while, he said with a serious expression, if I'm not wrong, junior brother should be comprehending a powerful great Tao. Moreover, it has already reached an extremely critical moment. After saying this, Aolei surveyed the situation around him and said, everyone, surround this place and form layers to protect Chief Yi Zan's safety. He must be given the time to comprehend the great Tao safely. Understood. Quote, after the disciples heard Aolei's order they immediately surrounded Yi Zan, forming a formation with him at the center. No one knew where Yi Zan had gone, but they could tell that he had encountered an opportunity and that these were critical moments. Back at Yi Zan's side, one could see that in this dark space, Yi Zan's face was abnormally pale and weak. He was extremely uncomfortable. At this moment, the Forbidden Lord was constantly transmitting energy into his body, and at the same time, explaining the principles of the Great Tao to him. This world is incomparably vast. If you want to escape the restraints of the world, you must first cut off your connection with the world. The first thing you have to do is sever all mortal thoughts. After hearing the words of the Forbidden Lord, Yi Zan gritted his teeth and roared, sever. At this moment, Yi Zan felt his soul twitch violently. It was as if a certain thing in his body had been cut off by Yi Zan. When this happened, Yi Zan's temperament underwent a huge change. He looked even more like an immortal. The second thing to remove is the various deeds of the past, and no longer be greedy for mortal achievements. After hearing the words of the Forbidden Lord, Yi Zan realized that he was about to collapse. However, He persevered with all of his might and roared hysterically, "Sever!" At this moment, Yi Zan felt that his strength had become even purer, but it seemed to have reached its limit. The Forbidden Lord was closely watching Yi Zan's condition. At this moment, he could not help but smile. With just one more step, Yi Zan would be able to successfully step onto this new path. At this moment, with the blood as the guide and the body as the Tao, you will sever all the good and evil in the world. After hearing this, Yi Zan did not immediately make his move. Instead, he asked, "What is good and evil? Is it all black and white?" Hearing this, the Forbidden Lord explained, "Between heaven and earth, there is a criterion for judging between good and evil. You only need to sever this. From now on, you only need to stick to your own judgment and standard of good and evil, and no longer need to abide by the world's standards." After hearing this, Yi Zan vaguely understood what needed to be done. Different people had their own judgment of good and evil, as did the world as a whole. Thus, after severing this, only his heart would make the judgment. Sever. Yi Zan did not continue to think about it and swung his sword again to make the final strike. It was also at this moment that Yi Zan instantly sensed a surging energy being injected into his sea of consciousness, causing his entire soul to shimmer and transform. His entire body was filled with energy. The Forbidden Lord chimed in at this point. "Young man, at this moment, you have already removed all useless thoughts from your soul. Now is also the best opportunity for you to step onto the path of this great Tao. Don't delay any longer. Hurry up and use your blood as a guide to create this new great Tao." Quote. At this moment, the blood in Yi Zan's entire body seemed to be boiling. It continued to develop, and even his body began to dry up. It looked extremely terrifying. Those surrounding Yi Zan also noticed this situation, and panic set in. "Heavens, senior brother, what exactly is going on? The situation doesn't seem right," Gao Shun said worriedly. His eyes were fixed on Yi Zan's body, watching as the latter's body began to dry up. Even his life force was beginning to weaken. At this moment, he was in full panic mode. Could it be that junior brother Yi had not successfully broken through? Aolei was also very flustered at this moment, and did not know what was going on. After all, his scope of knowledge was not that broad. What exactly is going on? Under normal circumstances, this shouldn't be happening. No matter how hard he racked his brain, he could not think of a reason. Aolei could only keep pacing back and forth, thinking about how to deal with this. However, the only thing they could do now was to quietly wait here and protect him. There was nothing else they could do. They stared at Yi Zan's body, which was constantly drying up, as if he had become a 1,000-year-old corpse. It was extremely terrifying. However, suddenly, a terrifying amount of energy surged out, causing Yi Zan's physical body to instantly recover. "My goodness." Quote. After discovering this situation, everyone at the scene was completely dumbfounded. The originally dark sky in the forest became cloudy, and it soon began to rain. However, this rain was not ordinary rain. It was a rain of blood. "Oh my God, has he already stepped into the eternal realm?" After a moment of shock, excitement instantly appeared on everyone's faces. "Oh my God, the Great Wilderness Divine Sect finally has an eternal realm expert." Single quote. Aolei was already so excited that he was jumping for joy. He had witnessed a historical moment for the sect. Chapter 967, Breaking Through. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Yi Zan had successfully stepped into the eternal realm. This was something that the sect's ancestors had spent countless efforts to achieve, but failed. However, Yi Zan had fulfilled their lifelong goal, so how could Aolei not be excited? In the endless dark space, 3 Tao flowers floated high in the sky, emitting divine light which drove away all of the ghosts. Become an immortal, use blood as a guide, and create a new Tao. Yi Zan kept repeating the words that the Forbidden Lord had taught him. He held his breath and concentrated, constantly comprehending the insights in his mind. Now that he had stepped into the eternal realm, he had discovered his future path. The 3 Tao flowers in his body seemed to be filled with the aura of nirvana. After sensing this change, he felt very confused. Forbidden Lord, what exactly is going on? After hearing Yi Zan's question, the Forbidden Lord looked closely at the Tao flowers and fell into a state of deep thought. Some time passed before he suddenly lit up, and a bright smile appeared on his face. It seemed that he had performed another round of divination. Haha, not bad. Not bad at all. If I'm not wrong, these 3 Dao flowers represent the future, the present, and the past. With the blood as a guide, under the effect of these 3 Dao flowers, how shocking will this fellow's talent become? This really makes me curious. The Forbidden Lord was also extremely excited at this moment. The great Dao that he had spent countless years creating seemed to be a success. Today, his horizons were broadened, and he was even more convinced of the great Dao that he had created. All of this seemed to be predestined. It was not only Yi Zan's opportunity, but also the Forbidden Lord's opportunity. He had been imprisoned here for countless years, and was being ravaged every moment. Perhaps fate had led him to wait here for Yi Zan's arrival. I finally understand. After understanding this matter, the Forbidden Lord laughed out loud again. All of the grudges of the past seemed to dissipate at this moment. Even his hair had turned pale at this moment. Young man, it seems that I still have an eye for talent. Ha ha ha. Don't stop. Continue cultivating. The Forbidden Lord quickly reminded him. Although he was happy, he did not forget about what was important. Yi Zan continued to remain focused and cultivated. He could clearly sense that his blood was still boiling and evaporating. The pain was unbearable for ordinary people, but Yi Zan did not give up. He gritted his teeth and persevered. When all the blood in his body was purified by the 3 Dao flowers, Yi Zan's soul seemed to have been sublimated. At this moment, the space Yi Zan was in began to shake continuously as if it was about to collapse. The Forbidden Lord observed the situation with a shocked expression. With a wave of his hand, the space regained its peace. If it was not for him, perhaps this underground space would have been shattered. However, the outside world was not faring any better. The world shook violently. In the blink of an eye, the disciples guarding Yi Zan staggered to the ground. Aulay and the other elders spit out mouthfuls of blood because they were the closest, and suffered varying degrees of injuries. When he stood up with difficulty, Aulay immediately swept his gaze across the surroundings. When he saw that no one had died, he heaved a sigh of relief. Hiss. The pain he felt made him keep his distance from Yi Zan's body. He said with a solemn expression, "The power that Junior Brother Yi released is really too terrifying." What is Junior Brother Yi facing right now? Aulay was very confused, but judging from Yi Zan's aura alone, he had indeed reached the eternal realm. However, his cultivation level also seemed to be very different from the other eternal realm experts they had previously encountered. In fact, Yi Zan even seemed to be more powerful. And at this moment, Yi Zan had already undergone an earth-shattering change. Not only had his combat strength increased significantly, but every move and stance he used also contained a trace of something profound and mysterious. In this underground space, the Forbidden Lord looked at this scene with gratification and was extremely happy. It can be considered a success. After spending countless years, I'm finally going to succeed. He looked at Yi Zan as if he was recalling his own youth. It would be a pity if he did not properly nurture a genius with such astonishing potential. Thinking this, the Forbidden Lord had an idea, and said excitedly, "Young man, I'm in a good mood today, so I'll teach you the reincarnation Tao as well. I hope you'll seriously comprehend it for your future. Perhaps in the near future, the reincarnation Tao will be helpful to you." As soon as he finished speaking, the Forbidden Lord instantly injected a stream of golden energy into Yi Zan's body. Then, dense golden divine runes appeared in Yi Zan's mind one after another. Yi Zan was shocked when he saw this. These reincarnation Tao divine runes were so mysterious. The Forbidden Lord was indeed worthy of his title as one of the top experts in the ancient times. This Tao was even more terrifying than the previous Taos he had mastered, though it was very difficult to comprehend and master. After recovering from his surprise, he refocused himself, and began to comprehend these divine runes. However, progress was slow at best. Based on his current speed, and the difficulty of comprehending the reincarnation Tao, it might take thousands of years to comprehend it. Chapter 968, Shock and Awe. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Although Yi Zan was already an Eternal Realm expert, even his current strength would not allow him to fully wield the reincarnation Tao. It was unclear how much time had passed, but when Yi Zan finally opened his eyes and realized that the Forbidden Lord's hair had already turned white. Even so, the latter's face was still smiling, as if he had already let go of everything in the past, and there was nothing left for him to worry about. "Forbidden Lord, what's wrong?" Hearing this, the Forbidden Lord shook his head indifferently and said, "It's just a small matter. I've already been imprisoned in this place for an unknown period of time, besides, it's just white hair." Yi Zan felt very emotional at this moment. Not only did the Forbidden Lord teach him a new path, but he also gave him the reincarnation Tao. This great kindness made Yi Zan regard the Forbidden Lord as his teacher. Perhaps the Forbidden Lord only considered this a matter of helping a junior, and had high hopes for him, but Yi Zan wanted to do something in return. "Do you know what method can help you escape this place?" Yi Zan asked sincerely. However, the Forbidden Lord waved his hand and replied, "There's no need for you to waste your energy. After staying here for such a long time, I'm already used to it. Besides, the cage I'm in was set up by a peerless expert. At this moment, you are not even qualified to hear his name. Don't take things too hard and try to accomplish the impossible. Otherwise, your life will be in danger." After sighing, the Forbidden Lord spoke again. "Young man, I'm anticipating your future achievements. Perhaps one day, you'll really be able to reach a realm that no one has reached. I've already roughly divined your fate. Thanks to the 3 Tao flowers in your body, your level of talent has reached unprecedented heights. However, from today onward, it is up to you to pioneer your own path. I have already done everything I can to help you. You can only rely on yourself in the future. Don't know what will happen in the future. Perhaps we will meet again someday. By then, one hope you will be much stronger." After saying this, a brilliant smile appeared on the Forbidden Lord's face, and he waved his hand and sent Yi Zan out of the cage. He did not say goodbye, as if certain that they would meet again one day in the future. At this moment, a golden light flashed and shone upon Yi Zan's body, after which his soul returned to his body. However, it took some time for his body and soul to readjust themselves, which caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. "Junior brother Yi, how do you feel?" When everyone saw that Yi Zan had returned, they immediately came forward to examine him with concern. Aulei was the one who asked about his condition. Yi Zan casually wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, waved his hand, and replied, "It's nothing serious. I just haven't adapted to my current condition. It will take a while." After saying this, Yi Zan sat down cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. With the help of the Forbidden Lord, Yi Zan had already reached the eternal realm, and the 3 Tao flowers, which represented the future, the present, and the past, had condensed into 3 Tao spirits. However, these Tao spirits were still dormant. Yi Zan could tell that these spirits were terrifying. When they woke up, it was likely that something big would happen. "The great Tao that Senior taught me can shake the sky and split the earth with just my fists. I can intimidate my enemies with just a wave of my hand and a stomp of my foot. If I can really reach the end of this path, how strong will I become?" Various thoughts ran through Yi Zan's mind, and he was filled with anticipation for the future. The Forbidden Lord had also mentioned that after he broke through and reached the eternal realm, the true path to immortality would begin. This meant that he was just at the starting point. The heavenly Tao world, and perhaps even other worlds, were waiting for Yi Zan to explore and conquer. Some time passed, and Yi Zan finished adjusting and adapting himself to his condition. He could clearly tell that his combat strength had increased by hundreds, or even thousands of times. Even he himself could not accurately gauge how strong he was now. He would have to fight a proper opponent to figure this out. After taking a deep breath, Yi Zan relaxed his entire body, and an indifferent expression appeared on his face again. His temperament and appearance seemed to undergo a change at this moment, and he looked like a true immortal. This was immediately evident to those around him, and they immediately began discussions in earnest. Don't know if you guys have noticed, but after Martial Uncle Yi's soul left his body, his aura underwent a tremendous change. It's almost as if he's become a completely different person, and no longer seems to be a part of this world. Yi Zan had already become the person every disciple in the sect aspired to emulate. Even though he was not always around, he had become the pillar of the sect that everyone looked up to, and their strongest support when times of trouble came. Thanks to him, everyone was driven to constantly cultivate and improve themselves. "Junior brother Yi, have you really reached the eternal realm?" Gao Shun came forward and asked in disbelief. At this moment, he was still very much dumbfounded, and could not comprehend how Yi Zan had broken through and advanced to the eternal realm so easily. Was it not rumored that reaching the eternal realm was harder than ascending to the heavens? However, Yi Zan's soul had only left his body for a period of time, yet when it returned, he had magically reached the eternal realm. It was simply magical and mind-boggling. Chapter 969. Strange Feeling. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Hearing this question, Yi Zan replied tongue-in-cheek, "Oh. It's not that difficult. As long as you have hands, you can easily do it too, right?" This stunned Gao Shun. "Ah, easy." He could only roll his eyes at Yi Zan helplessly, not knowing what to say. Although it was a momentous achievement, perhaps from Yi Zan's perspective, it might really be an easy matter. The only problem was this would not be the same for anyone else. In the end, it could only be said that comparisons with Yi Zan would only cause more grief. He. Seeing Gao Shun's helpless expression, Aolei laughed out loud. He then returned to the main topic and asked, "Oh right. Junior brother Yi, let's talk about serious matters first. Have you thought of a way to break this seal?" Despite the good news about Yi Zan's breakthrough, the main issue had not been resolved. If they failed to break this seal, they would really be trapped in this cave forever. Would Yi Zan's breakthrough change the situation? It was difficult to say. After all, it was likely that Gongsun Ming had created this seal with Yi Zan specifically in mind. Haha, how difficult can it be? Yi Zan smiled lightly. Then, he stretched out his hand and mobilized his spiritual power, causing a huge commotion to sweep the surroundings. My goodness, is he trying to break the seal by force? Everyone was taken aback. However, from what they could tell, Yi Zan was indeed doing just that. Moments later, a loud rumbling sound rang out, causing the entire forest to tremble. Elsewhere, Gongsun Ming, who was in the treasury, vaguely sensed that something was wrong with the seal he had set up. This is strange. Could it be that the seal I specially prepared was removed by someone? While hovering in the air, Gongsun Ming set up another formation, sealing the space in front of him. However, the bad feeling in his heart intensified. After a while, he denied the possibility. The seal that he had so painstakingly created would not be so easily broken. Even if he were to break it himself, it would take some effort. One don't think they'll be able to break my seal. After saying that, Gongsun Ming threw the matter to the back of his mind and stared at the crescent moon in the sky again. Yi Zan, just wait and see. As soon as one break through to the eternal realm, you'll be the first one I'll deal with. Your sect actually dared to destroy the immortal divine sect in the East Continent and damage our fate power. There's no way I'm going to let this go easily. I'll kill everyone in the great wilderness divine sect, down to the last critter and insect. After saying those words with a cold expression, Gongsun Ming concentrated on his breakthrough, trying to break through to the eternal realm. Elsewhere, Yanran had already arrived at a cave abode that was emitting an ice-cold aura, and had begun to cultivate in seclusion. However, while she was cultivating, she suddenly opened her eyes and muttered, "Great wilderness." At this moment, Yanran had a strange feeling in her heart, seemingly warning her. Her instinct was telling her not to break through yet. Over the past few days, this feeling had become more and more obvious. She could tell that something big was about to happen, but she could not figure out what it was. Every time she entered a state of cultivation, the two words, "Great Wilderness," would involuntarily appear in her mind, interrupting her. What exactly is going on? Could it be that the Great Wilderness Divine Sect is going to face a calamity? Or is there another reason? At this moment, she could not understand what was going on no matter how much she thought about it. She could only sit cross-legged in the icy cave abode quietly, enduring the baptism of the icy aura and continuously tempering her physique. She was only a step away from the eternal realm. Yi Zan, where are you? Yanran took out the purple wind chime that Yi Zan gave her and tried to contact him. However, there was no reply from him at all. The bad feeling in her heart became even stronger. She did not know where Yi Zan had gone. Ever since the treasury opened, she had seen no sign of him. Even Feng Xian and Zhu Yuyu did not know where he had gone. Honestly, she really wanted to immediately set off to find Yi Zan. However, after thinking about it carefully, she felt that breaking through was the most important thing to do at the moment, which was why she was in seclusion here. Unfortunately, every time she tried to break through, something would stop her. As for the other cultivators, they were all eyeing a medicinal pill that was emitting a golden light that had appeared in the sky, and were in a standoff. Up until now, no one had dared to make the first move. After all, it was likely that the first person to make a move would be mobbed by the other experts. The only outcome for such a situation was death. Therefore, no one dared to take the risk, and the atmosphere at the scene was tense and solemn. Everyone, we definitely can't go on like this. Why don't I make a suggestion? Those who made it here are all famous geniuses. Every one of us is powerful. There's no doubt about this. Moreover, we each believe ourselves better than the others. In that case, why don't we decide this by way of a competition? Whoever makes it to the end will get this pill. What do you think? After Huyi, who had a human body and a deer head, made this suggestion, it received the approval of many of the experts present. Chapter 970, Competitors. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The atmosphere at the scene became even more solemn at this moment. Almost every expert was observing their potential rivals, and those who were famous and well-known attracted even more attention. Among them, Zhu Yuyu was also observing the situation. The Cloud Heaven sword was already in her hand. First sister, this pill is extraordinary. If we can obtain it, it will definitely help you reach the ancient realm. Feng Xian's face was filled with warmth as she said this. Zhu Yuyu obviously knew the effect of this pill, so she decided that she had to fight for it. After all, she knew that Yi Zhan would likely ascend to the heavenly Dao world soon. She had to catch up to him as soon as possible. In this world, she had already lost her parents, and her teacher and fellow disciples were her family. Ever since she had become Yi Zhan's disciple, her teacher had treated her like his own child, protecting her as she grew. It was for this reason that she only wanted to stay by her teacher's side to repay his kindness. However, now that she knew that he was about to leave to the heavenly Dao world, she was very nervous about being left behind, and thus wanted to reach the sealed immortal realm as soon as possible and join him there. As such, this pill was vital to that push to reach her goal. How could she miss this opportunity? Don't worry, I'll definitely get my hands on this pill. Zhu Yuyu said this with a determined expression. This was the first time Feng Xian had seen her senior sister show such an expression, so she cheered her on. First sister, I believe that you can do it. After saying this, Feng Xian also began to mobilize her strength. Once she sensed that something was wrong, she would immediately rush to help Zhu Yuyu. Although the battle had yet to begin, the atmosphere at the scene had become even more tense as more people arrived. No one has the guts to be the first to stand up. Since that's the case, let me do it. After hearing this voice, a red light instantly appeared in the distance. A moment later, an extremely evil-looking man showed up. Kai Lian from the Fire Clan. Upon seeing his arrival, the crowd started whispering to each other, secretly assessing him. Kai Lian then said loudly, "Who dares to come and spar with me? Hurry up and come up." There was only silence, and no one made any moves. Just as Kai Lian was about to conclude that everyone present was afraid of him, a golden figure appeared in front of him. "Haha, ignorant fellow, you actually dared to behave so arrogantly up here. Get lost immediately." As soon as the newcomer said that, a terrifying light flashed, pushing Kai Lian back 100 meters. This shocked the other cultivators. Oh my god, the golden tiger is here too. This was the owner of a noble bloodline that only existed in legends. They did not expect him to actually appear here, as he was also one of the most powerful geniuses. Some people even predicted that he would definitely surpass his ancestors in the future and become a powerful peerless expert. After the arrival of this person, the scene has become more and more lively, especially after seeing him easily brush off Kai Lian. From this, they could already tell how powerful he was. The competition this time is destined to be difficult. This was not only a fight over the pill, but also a battle of dignity between different bloodlines. In the distance, Kai Lian spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with fear. Even Zhu Yuyu was a little worried as she thought to herself, this little kitten's combat strength has increased so quickly. At this moment, she felt that the burden on her shoulders had become much heavier. After all, she had seen the strength of this golden tiger when he first came to the East Sea. The battle prowess that he could unleash was at most not much different from that of the lightning tiger. However, it seemed that he had obtained an extremely heaven-defying opportunity after that, which had resulted in the growth of his battle prowess. Zhu Yuyu was not fully confident in her ability to defeat this golden tiger. At this moment, the golden tiger was looking down at the cultivators below while exuding a majestic aura. He suddenly let out a tiger roar, causing the world to tremble and frightening many people. Many disciples were so frightened that their faces turned pale, and they did not dare to make a sound at all. It seemed that he had successfully intimidated everyone. When Zhu Yuyu saw that the situation was not right, she could not stand it anymore and immediately wanted to make a move, but at this moment, another red light instantly shot over, causing the temperature of the surroundings to rise significantly. Following that was a loud and clear cry. When they turned to look in the direction of the cry, they saw a flaming divine bird. Oh my god, could this be a descendant of the fiery phoenix? Everyone was shocked once more. What was going on today? The appearance of the golden tiger was already very shocking, but now there was actually a descendant of a divine beast. This was a descendant of an ancient fire phoenix. Furthermore, its bloodline was extremely pure. This is interesting. Even a descendant of the fiery phoenix has arrived. There will be a good show to watch in this competition. After seeing all this, Feng Xian became excited. Chapter 971. Gongsun Ji Part 1. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Feng Xian's cultivation was fire type. After all, her body contained one of the hottest flames in the world, the heaven-burning flames. I'll wonder if there will be other powerful descendants of ancient divine beasts appearing later. This is really too exciting, Feng Xian said to herself. She had the attitude of an excited audience member waiting for the show to start. Zhu Yuyu rolled her eyes at her. This little girl, how could she be so happy? Didn't she know that her first sister was under a lot of pressure right now? Just as Zhu Yuyu was wondering if she should show herself and fight, a bold voice was heard from afar. It was a young man in a white robe slowly descending from the sky. Then, he stood steadily on a parasol leaf. His eyes were filled with disdain, and if one looked carefully, one would realize that he was a peak-level Supreme Realm expert. After his arrival, the atmosphere became more solemn. Who is this person? Zhu Yuyu was very confused when she saw this person. Although she could sense that this person was very strong, she had never heard of him before. A moment later, someone exclaimed in shock, "Oh my god. Could this kid be the top genius from the immortal divine sect who broke their sect's ancient path record 9 times, Gongsun Ji? Oh my god, he actually came." At this moment, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. The ancient path of the immortal divine sect was known as a purgatory by many genius disciples, as it had claimed the life of many geniuses. Those who were able to survive the ancient path were all powerful and talented. Gongsun Ji had already passed it 9 times, which could be considered a miracle. At this moment, the arrogant golden tiger became cautious. Gongsun Ji, I really didn't expect you to come to this place. The golden tiger felt immense pressure at this moment. If it was just dealing with the fiery phoenix, he still had a certain degree of confidence. However, if Gongsun Ji was added to the equation, things would become much more complicated. Gongsun Ji waved the fan in his hand and took a step forward in a graceful manner. Then, he said, "Golden Tiger, if you're here, why can't I be here?" When the Golden Tiger heard this, he instantly burned with anger. His pride did not allow him to lower his head in front of others. However, he was not only facing Gongsun Ji at the moment, but he was also diverting a part of his attention to the fiery phoenix, in case it suddenly attacked him. The atmosphere at the scene froze again. The Golden Tiger originally thought that Gongsun Ji would join forces with the fiery phoenix to deal with him, but unexpectedly, Gongsun Ji didn't seem to be interested in dealing with him at all. Gongsun Ji shifted his gaze to the crowd. After scanning the crowd, he said, "Golden Tiger, I'm not in the mood to deal with you. L heard that there was a talented genius disciple in the East Continent's great wilderness divine sect who has great attainments in the sword Dao. I would like to ask her for advice." After saying this, dense killing intent manifested in Gongsun Ji's eyes. Although it was only a flash, it was seen by the sharp Feng Xian. Feng Xian furrowed her brows tightly as she said, "First sister, if I'm not wrong, this person is here to deal with you." Zhu Yuyu had obviously noticed this as well. Coupled with what her teacher had mentioned to her before, she instantly understood what was going on. Previously, the Great Wilderness Divine Sect had destroyed the Immortal Divine Sect in the East Continent, so this guy was here to take revenge. The enmity between the two forces could no longer be resolved amicably. They would have to fight until one side was defeated and destroyed. Zhu Yuyu was not in a hurry to reveal herself. Instead, she was thinking calmly in her heart. Previously, when they had just entered the treasury, her master had mentioned to her that he would go out to search for the other members of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. However, it had already been a few days. Why was there still no news? Zhu Yuyu started to worry at this moment. Could it be that the immortal divine sect had really attacked the great wilderness divine sect? After making this judgment, Zhu Guoyu looked at Gongsun-ji's indifferent expression again, who clearly seemed to know what was going on. Her expression turned cold. Dense killing intent gradually emerged from her body. If the members of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect were really attacked by the Immortal Divine Sect, she would definitely make them pay with blood. The easiest target for her now was Gongsun-ji. In the sky, Gongsun-ji was becoming impatient as he had received no response to his words. His expression was cold as he continued, "Hee, could it be that all the disciples of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect are hiding and don't even dare to respond? How dare you?" After hearing this, a disciple of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect of the Heaven Continent immediately glared at him and scolded him. He held a sharp saber in his hand and looked at Gongsun-ji fiercely as he said, "Is the reputation of our Great Wilderness Divine Sect something you are allowed to insult? Let me spar with you then." Seeing this young man who had suddenly appeared, everyone was dumbfounded. At this moment, people understood very well that Gongsun-ji wanted to deal with the Great Wilderness Divine Sect of the East Continent, but why did someone from the Great Wilderness Divine Sect of the Heaven Continent suddenly stand up instead? However, after thinking about it carefully, people felt that this was quite normal. After all, Gongsun-ji had just mentioned the Great Wilderness Divine Sect without adding their place of origin, and had thus insulted both sects. Looking at the young man in front of him, Gongsun-ji said indifferently with disdain, "You. Ha ha ha, with your strength, don't come out and embarrass yourself, okay? Do you think you have the right to face me?" Seeing Gongsun-ji's arrogant attitude and insulting words, the disciple of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect of the Heaven Continent seemed to have suffered a heavy blow and instantly became furious. Chapter 972. Gongsun-ji, Part 2. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. He could no longer restrain his anger. No matter what, he was still a top genius, yet he was actually being looked down upon by others like this. How could he endure this? How arrogant. Quote, after fiercely saying that, this disciple, Lin Yun, unleashed a saber beam that flew toward Gongsun-ji. A battle was about to break out, and the heavens and earth shook. Everyone focused on watching what would happen, wondering if they were about to witness an intense battle. However, unexpectedly, Gongsun-ji casually waved his fan, and a terrifying energy instantly pushed Lin Yun back. Lin Yun fell to the ground with a mouthful of blood spurting out. He did not even have time to say a word before he fell unconscious. Oh my god, one-hit KO. Seeing this scene, everyone present was completely stunned. No matter what, that disciple of the Heaven Continent's Great Wilderness Divine Sect was also a genius at the peak of the Supreme Realm. Why did he seem so useless? Everyone was extremely puzzled. However, someone sighed and said, there are huge differences even between cultivators of the same realm. Even though they are at the same level, some of them have spent their entire lives reaching it, while others have reached this level without much effort. There are also some people who are not in a hurry to break through. Instead, they patiently consolidate their foundations to perfection before they step into the next realm. It is precisely because of this that even within the same realm, there can be a huge difference in strength. After hearing this person's words, everyone understood. Gongsun-ji was known as the most outstanding genius disciple of the Immortal Divine Sect. His potential was unquestionable. Some people even heard that before he reached the Supreme Realm, he had consolidated his foundations at all of the previous realms. The Golden Tiger obviously knew this, and had thus maintained a high degree of vigilance against Gongsun-ji. Gongsun-ji looked at Lin Yun and sneered. Aren't the mighty Great Wilderness Divine Sect's geniuses too weak? Sigh, I originally thought that there was a peerless genius in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect this time, but it turns out that I was mistaken. After hearing the mockery, the crowd started to discuss enthusiastically. Oh my god, aren't his words too blatant? Is Gongsun-ji declaring war on the Great Wilderness Divine Sect? Why is he so confident? At this moment, they were very excited, as they felt that there would be a good show to watch. After all, even as outsiders, they could not stand to hear such mockery, much less the members of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. This was the truth. When the disciples of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect from the Heaven Continent heard this, they were so angry that they gritted their teeth. Damn it, this bastard actually dares to look down on our sect. If their eldest senior brother was present, he would not dare to say such words. We must teach him that the Great Wilderness Divine Sect is not to be trifled with. Damn it, I can't take it anymore. Let's fight. A disciple stepped forward and wanted to fight the arrogant Gongsun-ji. The other disciples could not hold it in anymore and said, "Senior brother, you go first. Beat him until his mother can't recognize him." Lin Tian, who had stepped forward, also felt a lot of pressure at this moment. After all, the difference in strength between him and Lin Yun was not big. Since Gongsun-ji could easily defeat Lin Yun, it was likely that he would face the same outcome. However, he could not cower after the sect was insulted to that extent. Even if he knew that he would definitely lose, he would not retreat. Otherwise, their sect's reputation would suffer even more. B-starred Gongsun-ji, why don't you show me what's so amazing about your immortal divine sect? After saying this loudly, Lin Tian's heart hardened, and he mobilized his full strength in preparation to attack Gongsun-ji. However, just as he was about to launch an attack, Gongsun-ji looked over impatiently and said with a cold expression, Can you just go away? Is there no one worthy in the great wilderness divine sect? Why are all the small fries coming out to pester me? I don't have that much energy to fool around with you. Get lost." After hearing this, the crowd was once again filled with surprised voices. My God, how arrogant is this kid? When he heard this blatant insult, Lin Tian's face turned as black as coal. He gritted his teeth. He was actually being looked down upon. The other party did not even want to attack him at all. Damn it. The disciples of the Great Wilderness sect were also gnashing their teeth at this moment. The anger in their hearts was indescribable. Lihis was the first time they had been so blatantly insulted. Damn it. This fellow is really too arrogant. First sister, let's do it. Show how powerful we are. Even Feng Xian, who had always been gentle and refined, was so angry that she was gritting her teeth. Her face was also red. This was really too humiliating. As a member of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, how could she endure it? After hearing Feng Xian's words, Zhu Guoyu finally decided to act. Although she was not confident that she could beat Gongsun-ji, she could not sit around and watch as the sect was insulted and humiliated like this. She had no idea what her teacher was going through at the moment, but she had to settle the matter in front of him first. After that, Zhu Guoyu stared coldly at Gongsun-ji, her eyes filled with killing intent. Her long dress fluttered in the wind, and she released a terrifying aura that caused the hearts of the people nearby to tremble. Who is this? Those nearby were stunned. Why were there so many powerful genius disciples appearing all of a sudden? Chapter 973. Gongsun-ji, Part 3. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. As everyone watched, Zhu Guoyu made her presence known. As she flew up into the sky, her fluttering dress gave off an ethereal feeling, and she seemed like a fairy that had descended upon the mortal world. Upon seeing her, someone in the crowd immediately shouted, "She's the first disciple of Sword Immortal Yi." Good heavens. Quote. Everyone was extremely shocked at this moment. Gongsun-ji's originally arrogant expression also turned serious at this moment. His eyes were fixed on Zhu Guoyu. After a moment of careful observation, even he was stunned by Zhu Guoyu's peerless beauty, and it took him a few minutes to snap back to his senses. Haha, are you finally willing to show yourself? I really thought that you would hide forever. Gongsun-ji sneered, his eyes filled with killing intent. There was no doubt that the real purpose of his earlier actions was to lure Zhu Guoyu out. This was the only reason he had come to the treasury. He had heard about Zhu Guoyu's deeds and prowess from others, but he definitely did not acknowledge her as a rival. Due to his pride, he would never allow any genius stronger than him to exist. Moreover, the Immortal Divine Sect had a grudge with the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, which made him even more determined to defeat her. He wanted to do so publicly so that her undefeated record would come to an end at his hands, and thus establish the superiority of his sect over hers. Zhu Guoyu was also staring at Gongsun-ji with a cold expression. She remained silent as if she was thinking about something. After a while, Zhu Guoyu also displayed a disdainful expression and said, "Haha, the Immortal Divine Sect. I can remember one thing now. The great battle on the shore of the Boundless Coast a few days ago was caused by your sect members, right? Perhaps you guys secretly captured and trapped the disciples of our Great Wilderness Divine Sect." After thinking for a while, Zhu Guoyu finally understood what was going on. In addition to the clues she found, she finally figured out the ins and outs of this matter. She had once gone to the Boundless Coast and met many people from the Immortal Divine Sect there. At that time, she had just said goodbye to the disciples of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, as she had wanted to go to other places to see if she could obtain any opportunities. However, she never expected that, not long after she left, the members of the Great Wilderness Sect would have a big battle with the members of the Immortal Divine Sect. When she returned to the Boundless Coast, the scene was extremely chaotic, and there was nothing left. Initially, Zhu Yutu did not think that something had happened to her sect members. After all, Aulay was with them, so it would not be so easy for them to encounter misfortune. However, after meeting this fellow and connecting the dots, she realized that something was unusual about this matter. Gongsun Ji did not say anything after hearing Zhu Yueyu's words. He just stared at Zhu Yu without saying a word. However, the smile on his face was enough to tell that her conjecture was correct. Realizing this, her gaze became even more murderous. Good. Since you've made the first move, don't blame me for what happens next. Our Great Wilderness Sect never provokes others, but if others dare to provoke us, we will never be merciful. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhu Yuyu instantly released her aura, causing the air to freeze. Moments later, her sword Dao aura swept out, and it almost seemed that the domain around her had been filled with sharp swords. She tightly gripped her sword as she said coldly, "I'll let you experience just how powerful my sword Dao is." After saying this, Zhu Yueyu's body shot up to 10,000 meters in the air, and sword beams began to condense in the sky one after another. My god, aren't these sword beams too terrifying? The entire world trembled, and the expressions of the onlookers who saw this scene also changed drastically. Gongsun Ji could not help but turn serious. He could clearly feel that what he had just done had angered Zhu Yueyu. Zhu Yueyu then swung the Cloud Heaven sword at him and roared, "Take your pride and die." Her earth-shattering killing move tore through the sky. Gongsun Ji's face was filled with panic. What a terrifying sword move. Has this woman's talent in the sword Dao reached such a terrifying level? The densely packed sword beams were as numerous as raindrops, so anyone within the range of the sword Dao domain would not be able to escape. Hiss. This person's talent in the sword Dao has reached an extremely shocking level. Even if it were me, I wouldn't have the confidence to win. It seems that there are indeed many talented people in the human race. At this moment, even the arrogant golden tiger felt a sense of crisis. Gongsun Ji, who was facing the full brunt of Zhu Yueyu's attack, was panicking. He had long heard that Zhu Yueyu was extremely talented in the sword Dao, but had thought the information to be fake. He believed that he would easily be able to deal with her. Unfortunately, things had gotten out of hand now. After a moment of panic, Gongsun Ji's face actually showed an extremely excited expression. His desire to fight had completely aroused. It was not easy to meet an opponent of the same level. As the #1 genius disciple in the South Continent, he could not cower here. Are we going to compete in the sword Dao? This is getting interesting. Gongsun Ji's expression gradually became calm as he watched the dense rain of sword beams descend from the sky. Chapter 974, Flowing Cloud Sword. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Gongsun Ji raised his head slightly and looked up. At this very moment, he also took out an immortal grade sword. In an instant, the crowd erupted into an uproar again. Oh my god, Gongsun Ji also has an immortal grade sword. It was not only that. From the quality of this sword, one could tell that it seemed to have reached the limits of the immortal grade. Could this sword be the sword that existed in the ancient books, the Flowing Cloud Sword? Sensing the aura released by this sword, some knowledgeable people immediately guessed the name of this sword. After hearing what he said, everyone looked over at the same time and asked, "What exactly is the Flowing Cloud Sword? Hurry up and say it. What are its origins?" At this moment, everyone's curiosity was aroused. They stared at the person who had just spoken, waiting for his answer. This sword was specially used to kill demons. There are detailed records of it in ancient books. According to the ancient books, this sword first appeared on an ancient battlefield. Its owner was a powerful expert who could kill countless demons with just a casual swing of the sword. As such, he became someone whose mere name incited fear among the demons. The last time it appeared was during the dark and chaotic period of the ancient era. At that time, its owner had already changed to a young human. Although he was still young, he had lofty aspirations. He traveled across thousands of mountains and rivers, slaughtering all of the demons in the human world, and even killed his way into the strange realm, stabilizing the situation. Every time the flowing cloud sword appears, it would calm down the chaos and prevent all evil forces from taking over. Precisely because of this reason, this sword is considered a legend. Every time before chaos descends, it will inevitably appear. After hearing this, the expressions of everyone present changed drastically. They looked at the flowing cloud sword in Gongsunji's hand in a daze, their eyes filled with disbelief. Could it be that this kid is the chosen demon slayer? Everyone was very surprised at this moment. Gongsunji had appeared with the flowing cloud sword in his hand. Did that not prove that he was the chosen one? If not, how could he have been acknowledged by the flowing cloud sword? At this moment, no one was willing to admit it. On the other hand, Gongsunji's expression was cold as he looked at the incoming sword beams in the sky. He quickly swung the flowing cloud sword to meet the attack. In an instant, there was a loud bang, as the two terrifying forces collided, unleashing powerful energy fluctuations into the surroundings. Poochie, a nearby cultivator, had gotten too close in order to watch the fight, and failed to avoid the energy fluctuations. He was sent flying, and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone was already shocked by the two's attacks, and the atmosphere at the scene turned even more serious. After her killer move was blocked, Zhu Yuyu was also pushed back hundreds of meters by the terrifying energy fluctuations before she finally stopped. Her eyes were still filled with killing intent, but there was a hint of shock in them. This fellow's sword was very powerful. From the aura it exuded, she could tell that it surpassed the Cloud Heaven sword. If Zhu Yueyu's sword Dao was not powerful enough, she might have lost when their sword beams collided. That being said, Gongsunji did not fare much better, and he also retreated a few hundred meters before stopping. In an instant, he covered his slightly pale face, making him look extremely arrogant again. Hee, it seems that the sword techniques of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect are not worth much. Hearing his mockery, the expression on her face turned even colder, as if her face was frozen in ice. However, she still did not choose to take action at this moment. Gongsunji gradually approached higher and said lightly, "Elle originally thought that Sword Immortal Yi's eldest disciple would definitely have astonishing attainments in the Sword Dao, but after experiencing it for myself, I realized that it's nothing more than hot air. If his disciple only has this much strength, then Sword Immortal Yi shouldn't be all that strong." Ha ha ha. After hearing this, the crowd could not help but start discussing again. Oh my god, does this kid not want to live a long life? He actually dared to mock Sword Immortal Yi. Everyone was stunned by Gongsunji's words. Just how arrogant was he? It was one thing to mock Sword Immortal Yi's disciple, but he actually dared to mock Sword Immortal Yi directly. However, some people could see the truth at this moment. Gongsunji did not say this because he was arrogant. He just wanted to anger Zhu Yuyu. If a person's emotions fluctuated violently, it was easy for that person to lose control and act recklessly. Of course, this ignited Zhu Yueyu's anger. However, she did not look angry. Instead, her face was filled with cold killing intent. In Zhu Yueyu's heart, Yi Zan was her bottom line. If anyone dared to insult him, he would not hesitate to kill them. Hee, Immortal Divine Sect. We erased them once, and we can do it again. Unlike others, if Zhu Yueyu was really angry, she would become even calmer. After all, she was an ice-type cultivator, which meant that she would be able to remain clear-headed at all times. She raised the Cloud Heaven sword unhurriedly. In the blink of an eye, an ice phoenix condensed in the sky and flew around. A wave of piercingly cold aura was released, and even the air seemed to freeze. Oh no, hurry up and escape. After sensing that something was wrong, many of the cultivators fled the scene in order to reach a safe distance. Gongsunji's expression changed drastically. He did not expect that Zhu Yueyu would not only not lose her mind, but somehow even become stronger. Chapter 975, Tit for Tat. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. After sensing her cold aura, Gongsunji no longer tried to rile her up, and focused his full attention on the battle at hand. Although he had the flowing cloud sword, he could not afford to let down his guard against a powerful enemy like Zhu Yueyu. After all, he had already personally experienced what she was capable of during their last exchange. At this moment, Zhu Yueyu's eyes were filled with killing intent as she made a stabbing motion with the Cloud Heaven sword, causing the color of the world to change. Freeze the world. With this, her extremely cold aura spread out at an even faster speed, instantly freezing her surroundings. Damn it! Gongsunji started to panic, and he swung the flowing cloud sword repeatedly, trying to break free from the shackles of this cold aura. However, just as he broke free from the restraints, her figure appeared in front of him. Moments later, a loud boom was heard. Zhu Guoyu did not hesitate to attack with her sword. The Cloud Heaven sword was able to display its full power in her hands, and soon, she had the upper hand and firmly suppressed Gongsun-ji. Under her dense rain of attacks, Gongsun-ji's original white robe was completely soaked in blood. Oh my god, this battle is really too shocking. A battle between top geniuses like this is rare. Every sword move they unleash is meant to kill. It's simple, but effective. Who would have thought that such a beautiful woman would be so powerful once angered? It's really shocking. Everyone was extremely shocked at this moment, and the battle continued. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding mountain peaks and rivers had been destroyed. Because he had been at a disadvantage from the beginning until now, Gongsun-ji was burning with anger. He roared, "Get lost." As soon as he finished speaking, Gongsun-ji instantly swung the flowing cloud sword with all his might and forced Zhu Guoyu to retreat. He was beyond infuriated. Ever since his debut, this was the first time he had been beaten to such a miserable state by someone. Moreover, this person was a girl. After being forced back, Zhu Guoyu stared at Gongsun-ji with a cold gaze and said disdainfully, "Hee hee, a mortal divine sect. You're nothing special after all." Zhu Guoyu mocked him as he had done to her, further infuriating him. Anyone with eyes could see that Gongsun-ji had been unable to fight back during the earlier exchanges and had been firmly suppressed by Zhu Guoyu. Moreover, he was so arrogant when he first appeared, and had not taken Zhu Guoyu seriously at all. Thus, it seemed that his blustering was not backed up by strength. This stark contrast made him so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhu Guoyu had learned how to humiliate others from her teacher. It was always best to feed people a taste of their own medicine. Holding the Cloud Heaven sword and pointing it at Gongsun-ji from afar, Zhu Guoyu displayed a disdainful expression and said, "El originally thought that the Immortal Divine Sect's sword techniques were very powerful, but it seems that I set myself up for disappointment. It's the same case with you. I was hoping for a good fight, but it turned out that I was just imagining things. Damn it, I shouldn't have gotten my hopes." After hearing Zhu Guoyu's words, the entire place burst into laughter, especially Feng Xian. She was already clutching her stomach, laughing so hard that her entire body was trembling. Seeing her senior sister's solemn face as she said those words, Feng Xian felt that she was practically carved out from the same board as her teacher. In fact, it was as if they were exactly the same. Hearing such words, who could restrain their anger? Fortunately, Martial Uncle Gao was not here. Otherwise, if he saw this scene, he would recall the scene of him being humiliated by her teacher and stomp his feet in anger, right? Ha ha ha. On the other side, the Heaven Continent's Great Wilderness Divine Sect's disciples who had been insulted by Gongsun-ji also burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. This is really too satisfying. It seems that someone has finally put this arrogant fellow in his place. Quote. Zhu Guoyu's words had ignited the crowd. When he saw everyone laughing mockingly, the anger in Gongsun-ji's heart could no longer be restrained. BTCH. He was originally a proud person, and all along, he had been the one mocking people, not the other way around. In his endless rage, the flowing cloud sword began to release an even more terrifying aura, and his terrifying power erupted, causing the surroundings to tremble. Dense divine runes seemed to condense in the sky, giving off an extremely oppressive aura. After discovering this situation, the noisy crowd fell silent. At this moment, they all understood very well that Gongsun-ji was probably going to unleash his trump card. Zhu Guoyu also turned her full focus back to the battle, not daring to be careless. Despite her earlier words, this fellow was not an opponent she could afford to underestimate. As expected, after Gongsun-ji had provoked his anger, the power he released was several times stronger than before, making Zhu Guoyu feel very pressured. In fact, she was actually quite impressed. Although this kid was very arrogant, he also had strength to back up his words. "You damned woman. Wipe your neck clean and wait for me to take your head." Gongsun-ji's eyes were already bloodshot. Chapter 976. Gone Crazy. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. As Zhu Guoyu and Gongsun-ji fought, more and more people gathered around them. They were all shocked by the monstrous aura of this sword move. Could this be an immortal grade cultivation technique? Gongsun-ji was using an immortal grade cultivation technique. Impossible. How could this brat possibly grasp such a profound technique? I definitely won't believe it. Quote. After noticing this situation, the Golden Tiger was the first to express his opinion. He had a noble bloodline, and with the help of his clan, he had barely mastered an immortal-grade cultivation technique. Therefore, if Gongsun-ji had managed to do the same by virtue of his own talent, it meant that the Golden Tiger was inferior to him. Just how terrifying was his level of talent? Zhu Guoyu was also quite surprised, but began to make preparations to deal with it. Since her opponent had already used his trump cards, she had to use hers as well. Isn't it just an immortal-grade cultivation technique? Let's see whose one is better then. After she said that, Zhu Guoyu's eyes suddenly flashed with a blue light. The next moment, the world shook violently again. The cloud heaven sword floated in the sky, releasing waves of powerful sword aura. Oh my god, is that another immortal-grade cultivation technique? Are immortal-grade cultivation techniques so easy to come by now? Why does everyone seem to have one? The most shocking thing was that the two of them seemed to have truly grasped the mysteries of their immortal-grade cultivation techniques. This alone put them far above the other geniuses present. It was precisely because of this reason that some of the disciples who liked to call themselves geniuses felt extremely embarrassed at this moment. Compared to these two, could they really be considered geniuses? Zhu Guoyu was floating in the sky, her long dress fluttering in the wind. Then, she said with a cold expression, "Worldly slash." Quote. With that single command, the cloud heaven sword immediately released an even more dazzling sword aura, and it felt as if the whole world had been frozen. As the cold sword aura swept out, everyone's souls seemed to be frozen. This sword move was created by Zhu Guoyu combining her own cold aura with the world slash. It was different from the original world slash, and its power was also greatly improved. The two terrifying sword attacks collided once again, creating shockwaves that could be felt throughout the entire treasury. Those who sensed these shockwaves were taken aback. What was going on? Could it be that a rare treasure had appeared? With their curiosity piqued, many of them flew in the direction of the battle to see what the commotion was all about. On the battlefield, due to the repeated collisions, both sides were constantly retreating. Zhu Guoyu's beautiful face had turned extremely pale at this moment, and she could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Her condition had become much worse. However, her gaze was still extremely cold. After wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, she stood upright. Gongsun-ji was in an even worse state. His original white clothes were now covered in blood and in tatters. If one did not know, one would even think that he was a beggar who had just been bullied on the streets. His entire body was trembling, and his gaze was dull. He could not believe what was happening in front of him. How could it be? How could I fail? Why is this? I've been the peerless genius of the immortal palace since I was born. I've gone through countless dangers and trials to reach this level. How could I fail? Gongsun-ji shouted at the top of his lungs. He looked at the sword in his hand, and could not believe what was happening. I'm the one with the flowing cloud sword. Which genius in this world can compare to me? This is definitely not happening. At this moment, he was in a state of madness. He was filled with endless anger, and wanted nothing more than to tear Zhu Guoyu apart. He stood up shakily, his eyes red as if he had entered a demonized state. Zhu Guoyu stared at him coldly and said, "You are really funny. The only reason you are even still standing is because of this sword in your hand. The confidence you have was given to you by this sword. As a sword cultivator, you have forgotten the original heart of a swordsman. My teacher has reminded me many times that if you want to win a battle, the most important thing is not how powerful your weapon is, but your own body. You relied too much on your sword, so you lost to me." After hearing Zhu Guoyu's words, Gongsun-ji completely collapsed. Every word was hammered into his heart. Impossible. Gongsun-ji had gone completely crazy. He was the top swordsman in this world. No one could compare to him. He started laughing like a maniac. His hair was disheveled, and he had become a lunatic. Ha ha, I am the most powerful genius in this world, an existence that no one can match. No one can deny that, and no one can defeat me. It's the same for you. He was unwilling to give up the fight. As for Yuyu, by this time, she had adjusted her condition and taken a pill at the same time, allowing her to recover quite a bit, though not quite to her peak. On the other hand, after Gongsun-ji entered the demonized state, the aura he released became much stronger. Chapter 977, Emotions. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. As he held the flowing cloud sword in his hand, Gongsun-ji's aura continued to rise. Great Wilderness Divine Sect, hee hee. After laughing out loud, Gong Sunji looked up at the sky. Moments later, a golden light was released and illuminated the entire world, causing the onlookers to panic. This move, floating in the air, Zhu Yuyu reached out her hand to touch the breeze that flowed through her fingertips. Suddenly, a wave of sadness arose in her heart. At this moment, Zhu Yuyu's mind seemed to have been disturbed by an inexplicable force. Sad scenes kept appearing in her mind. Yuyu's face turned pale at this moment, because the scene that appeared in her mind was the scene of his parents being devoured by the berserk beasts. Seeing her parents lying in front of her in such a miserable state, she started to tremble and her consciousness became blurry. Oh no, this aura can actually affect people's emotions. Feng Xian, who was watching the battle, instantly sensed that something was wrong with Gong Sunji's sword move, and began to worry for her first sister. She was well aware of the painful experiences Zhu Yuyu had buried deep within her heart. This was also the last thing Zhu Yuyu wanted to face, even though her attitude had always been unyielding and her image in people's hearts had always been very strong. However, every night, Feng Xian would see her first sister lying quietly next to the windowsill, looking at the moon and reminiscing about her family who had passed away. It was also for this reason that Feng Xian was worried when she realized what Gong Sunji's sword move was capable of, as she knew just how much it would affect Zhu Yuyu. First sister, you must persevere. However, she could not interfere, and could only lend her support to her first sister through her words. After all, this was just a fair fight between the two of them. If she attacked rashly at this moment, it would definitely damage the reputation of the Great Wilderness Divine ECT and her first sister. On the other hand, Zhu Yuyu was still feeling extremely sad. Her tears fell quietly, and her mind was filled with the shadows of her parents. At this moment, she was about to lose herself to her emotions. After discovering this situation, many onlookers at the scene were surprised, and also worried for her. You have to hold on. Many disciples were cheering and encouraging Zhu Yuyu. Who would have thought that Zhu Yuyu would have such a weakness? Perhaps Gong Sunji was lucky enough to stumble upon this, but it seemed that the tides of battle had changed. When Gong Sunji realized that Zhu Yuyu was greatly affected, he laughed out loud. Ha ha, as long as you are a human, then you will be affected by your emotions. It is the same for immortals. L spent over 100 years and went through countless difficulties to comprehend this sword technique. I originally wanted to keep this sword move as a trump card to surprise my enemy, but I didn't expect to be forced to use it on you today. Actually, you should feel honored. After all, you are the first to witness my sword technique and the first person to be killed by it. Although Gong Sunji was speaking proudly, Zhu Yuyu could not hear anything at the moment. She seemed to be completely lost in her emotions. In front of Zhu Yuyu, there seemed to be thousands of mirrors, and each mirror displayed Zhu Yuyu's weakness. Is this my truest self? My teacher once told me that everyone has a different face. Only by looking inwardly can one discover the true side of a person. Dao is both emotional and heartless. The most important thing is to be open-minded and to not to lose focus. The words that her teacher had once told her surfaced in her memory. Zhu Yuyu began to seriously examine herself and her own flaws at this moment. She realized that she was still young and inexperienced. At the same time, she had deep thoughts in her heart. No matter what kind of thing it was, she wanted to do it perfectly and was unwilling to show any weakness. Mirrors can reflect different faces. The most important thing is to be able to give and take. Only then can I truly accept myself. After muttering to herself, Zhu Yuyu's eyes lit up. I'll understand. At this moment, Zhu Yuyu was enlightened. She had been stuck at the peak of the Supreme Realm, and had not been able to step into the next realm. After all, her cultivation journey was too smooth. Her master had been escorting her and guiding her, so she did not know the true path. Thanks to Gong Sunji's sword move, she had discovered her true self and comprehended the meaning of her Tao. At this moment, his eyes had already returned to their original lively state. After taking a deep breath, she took in the scene around her, and then instantly destroyed the illusion created by Gong Sunji, along with the image of her dead parents lying in front of her. Zhu Yuyu had already said goodbye to her past. From this moment on, she had accepted her true self. The shattering of the illusion shocked everyone, including Gong Sunji. This can't be real. She can actually destroy the illusion I created. Gong Sunji panicked again. This was his only trump card, and from the looks of things just now, he had the situation completely under control. However, who would have thought that Zhu Yuyu would actually be able to destroy his illusion? At this moment, Zhuge Yueyu's eyes were filled with killing intent. The sadness within them had long disappeared. Her emotions would no longer be affected by the illusions created by Gongsun-ji. After all, she had already comprehended and accepted her true self. The surrounding spiritual energy began to surge frantically into Zhuge Yueyu's body. Chapter 978, Unexpected Savior. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Thanks to the influx of the endless spiritual energy, Zhuge Yueyu's entire body glowed with dazzling divine light. Oh my god, this is a sign of a breakthrough. Boundless blue light flashed and a diamond-shaped ice mark appeared on Zhuge Yueyu's forehead. This was a unique sign of a breakthrough to the ancient realm. Is this for real? She's going to break through to the ancient realm under these circumstances. Everyone was shocked. This was the first time they had seen such a special situation, so this was unprecedented. She discarded her obsession and chose to accept her true self. First sister is really going to step into the ancient realm, Feng Xian muttered to herself. Her eyes were filled with shock. She felt very incredulous at this moment. On the other hand, Zhuge Yueyu felt that the immortal bones in her body were releasing terrifying energy, which was helping her body to evolve. Moments later, a terrifying amount of power swept out, and Gongsun-ji, who was the closest to her, was instantly forced back. Gongsun-ji only stopped after he was knocked back 1,000 meters. He spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. He still felt unresigned at this moment. He struggled to stand up again, but no longer had the strength to do so. He could only say, "What exactly are you? How did you accomplish this?" Zhuge Yueyu stared at him coldly. There was no emotion in her eyes. This seemed to be her answer to him. Accepting and then discarding your past emotions. Gongsun-ji smiled helplessly. He had to admit this fact. Zhuge Yueyu did not want to show mercy at this moment. She slashed her sword at Gongsun-ji, and was about to take his life when something unexpected suddenly occurred. A huge wrinkled hand appeared in the air and came flying toward Gongsun-ji. Oh no, dodge quickly. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression changed and they immediately retreated. The shocking pressure coming from this hand was so powerful that none of the cultivators present could raise their heads to see whose hand it was, not even Zhuge Yueyu. However, she knew very well that this hand belonged to an expert from the Immortal L-Ivine sect who wanted to rescue Gongsun-ji. However, Zhuge Yueyu would not let him save Gongsun-ji so easily. Earlier, Gongsun-ji insulted the Great Wilderness sect and even dared to insult her master. How could she let Gongsun-ji off so easily? Stop right there. As soon as she finished speaking, the Cloud Heaven sword instantly flew out as she unleashed the Worldly Slash, and even opened the Sword Dao door. When these attacks crashed against the hand, the old man actually felt a trace of pain on his skin. However, his hand still grabbed Gongsun-ji, and then his body erupted with power. Oh my god. When the old man released his true power, everyone finally understood how terrifying the old man was. Against someone this powerful, even most ordinary sealed immortal realm experts were helpless, much less Zhuge Yueyu. His aura pushed Zhuge Yueyu to the ground, and she seemed to have been seriously injured. However, Zhuge Yueyu wiped the blood off her mouth and stood up immediately. After the old man rescued Gongsun-ji, he said coldly, "Little thing, you are indeed very talented, but unfortunately, your actions have seriously interfered with my plan. Therefore, you can only die." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man released a powerful palm strike. He actually wanted to kill Zhuge Yueyu here. Faced with this terrifying energy, Zhuge Yueyu felt as if she was facing the Grim Reaper. She could only close her eyes and accept her fate. She knew very well that even if she did not kill Gongsun-ji today, these people from the Immortal Divine sect would never let her off easily, as she would pose a threat to them in the future. They would not allow her to grow to that stage. This was the cruel reality of the cultivation world. Zhuge Yueyu had wanted to kill Gongsun-ji, so that even if she died, she would drag a genius of the Immortal Divine sect with her. However, given the current situation, there was no way for her to realize that. The huge palm flew toward Zhuge Yueyu, causing the world to tremble. However, at this moment, a huge staff suddenly appeared. "Haha, I'm here. Who is it?" After hearing this voice, the onlookers were taken aback. Who would dare to interfere in the battle at this juncture? On a cloud in the distance, a golden monkey flew over, holding a rod that was emitting golden light. Not only that, but there were also extremely strange sounds coming from behind the golden monkey. Thump thump, thump thump thump. At this moment, everyone's jaws dropped as they watched the monkey stir up the wind and clouds with the rod in his hand. Zhu Guoyu also took this opportunity to escape the palm strike while the old man was distracted. She cast a grateful look at the furry monkey. However, the monkey was not here to save Zhu Guoyu. Instead, his target was the pill. Ha ha ha, I'll take this pill since no one wants it. After shouting in a despicable manner, the furry monkey immediately reached out to snatch the immortal pill. However, when he saw this, the old man in the sky instantly became angry. Damned monkey, how dare you meddle in other people's business? As soon as he finished speaking, the old man launched an attack at the monkey. It was another palm strike. However, unexpectedly, the furry monkey ignored the terrifying palm strike. Chapter 979. The Demon King Awakens. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. After the little monkey snatched the pill away, he immediately swung the Jingu staff at the incoming palm. At the same time, he unleashed his aura. Oh my god, he's actually reached the sealed immortal realm. When did this furry monkey break through to the sealed immortal realm? At this moment, everyone was extremely shocked. Not long ago, the furry monkey had been seriously injured and fled with his tail between his legs. Moreover, at that time, he was only a supreme realm expert. How did he manage to bypass the ancient realm and reach the sealed immortal realm within such a short period of time? He, I'll beat you to death with my staff. After taking the medicinal pill, the furry monkey could no longer suppress himself, and immediately picked a fight with the old man. One had to know that the monkey loved fighting, so given that he had endured so much pain in order to break through and reach the sealed immortal realm, there was no way he was going to let go of such a good sparring partner. The Jingu staff instantly became bigger as it crashed into the incoming palm. Boom! Damned monkey, how dare you! The old man immediately cursed loudly, and the scene immediately turned chaotic. Looking at this scene, Zhu Guoyu thought about it for a while before she left the battlefield. First sister, are you okay? Feng Xian asked worriedly. Zhu Guoyu replied with a trace of lingering fear, fortunately, this furry monkey appeared at a good time. Otherwise, I'm afraid I really wouldn't have been able to return. She was still feeling a little scared and clutching the jade pendant tightly in her hand. If the furry monkey had not made an appearance and messed with the old man, she would have probably called her teacher's wife over. She looked gratefully at the furry monkey in the sky. At this moment, the monkey even looked rather domineering. As the shocking battle continued, a seal in the forbidden aura seemed to be on the verge of breaking. Zhu Guoyu happened to notice this, and upon closer examination, she sensed a shadow emitting an evil aura behind the seal. She immediately felt that something was wrong with this situation. At this very moment, the little monkey unknowingly swung his staff at the seal. Boom! Accompanied by a huge explosion, the seal that was originally on the verge of breaking, shattered completely. A demon king who had fallen into a deep sleep slowly opened his eyes at this moment. At this moment, the sky instantly darkened, and dense black shadows continuously appeared in the sky. Heavens! What exactly happened? A strong wind blew. After realizing the sudden situation, the onlookers' expressions changed drastically. The old man in the sky frowned at this moment as he looked at the figure in the depths of the forbidden area with fear. Retreat. He did not want to continue fighting with the monkey, and turned to leave with Gongsun Ji. However, how could the little monkey let them leave so easily? Why are you running away? Watch as I beat you to death with my staff. Quote. At this moment, the little furry monkey had no idea that his earlier attack had released a terrifying demon king. Therefore, he was enjoying the fight with reckless abandon. He swung the Jingu staff at the old man at full power. Damn it! Get lost! The old man was clearly enraged. He just wanted to get away from here, yet this damned monkey was not letting him leave. FCK. Seeing that the sleeping demon king was about to awaken completely, he knew that if he did not run now, he would really be finished. After he made up his mind, he immediately gathered his strength. Divine runes that emitted an ancient aura appeared out of thin air. They instantly released a terrifying amount of energy that suppressed the scene. My goodness, this seemed to be the legacy technique of the immortal divine sect, the primordial Godfian technique. After this spell was used, people could guess the old man's identity. Although he did not want to provoke this demon king in the depths of the forbidden area, he had no choice but to do so because of the monkey's interference. As expected, when the old man used the primordial Godfian technique, a pair of blood-red eyes instantly locked onto the old man. Then, a roar resounded. After hearing this roar, the onlookers felt a chill run down their backs and instantly broke out in cold sweat. They felt as if a prehistoric beast was standing in front of them. What a terrifying aura. At this moment, Zhuge Yuyu also realized how terrifying this Demon King was. The killing intent released by this sealed Demon King was so terrifying that even Zhuge Yuyu felt petrified. She had not felt so helpless even in front of Meng Yu. From this, one could tell how terrifying this Demon King was. Second sister, the situation is dangerous. We must be prepared to escape at any time. After thinking for a moment, Zhuge Yuyu had already made a decision. She stood up and started to scan her surroundings. Feng Xian agreed without hesitation. She had also sensed how terrifying the existence in the Forbidden Zone was. After that roar, the entire area fell silent as if someone had pressed the pause button. However, when the people regained consciousness, they realized in horror that they could not move their bodies. What happened? Why can't I move? What is going on? The scene instantly turned chaotic. People tried their best to escape, but they could not move at all. All they could do was shout, and their expressions were already full of panic. On the other side, Zhuge Yuyu and Feng Xian were also frozen. No matter how hard they tried, they could not move. Damn it. After trying to escape for a while, Zhuge Yuyu's face had already turned pale and powerless. She felt very helpless. When the Demon King had just broken the seal, she had already sensed that something was wrong and wanted to escape. However, before she could escape, she had already been imprisoned by the Demon King. What sort of technique is this? Feng Xian also asked with a face full of panic. It was obviously the first time she had seen such a powerful imprisonment technique. 980 Saving the little monkey. It felt like a kind of spatial type divine power, but also did not seem like it. Perhaps it was an ancient forbidden technique, but it felt extremely strange. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So no matter how hard they tried, they could not escape. We're in trouble. After her initial panic subsided, Zhuge Yuyu started to think seriously about how she could escape this disaster. At this moment, her gaze was on the jade pendant in her hand, and she almost instinctively wanted to break it. However, she was not sure if Yanran would be able to handle this situation, and did not want to drag her into it needlessly. After thinking about it for a while, Zhuge Yuyu put away the jade pendant without breaking it. Boom! A loud explosion erupted, and dark waves of energy swept out, dyeing the space they were in black. As everyone watched in terror, a strange shadow materialized unhurriedly from the endless abyss of the Forbidden Zone. Its entire body was releasing thick black smoke and terrifying killing intent. Its face was also as pale as a corpse. At this moment, it stuck out its tongue and licked its chin. His gaze swept around. Every time it passed by those figures with ancient bloodlines, it paused for a moment. It was looking at them as if they were particularly delicious morsels of food. It was practically drooling. What a nice day it is today. So many delicacies have been delivered to my doorstep. Let me take a good look. Who should I eat first? Hearing this terrifying voice, everyone trembled, and their backs were already soaked in sweat. At this moment, rays of golden light flashed. Looking closely, they saw the little monkey smashing the Jingu staff toward the huge Demon King. Who dares to steal my limelight? I'll give you a beating first. Seeing the little monkey's reckless actions, everyone's jaws dropped in shock. Oh my god, does this little monkey want to die? Isn't this 2FC King reckless? Everyone present seemed to have been frozen in place, unable to move. However, this little monkey seemed to be unaffected and actually dared to attack the Demon King. Should he not have run away in such a critical situation? Why did he end up attacking the Demon King instead? Boom! The sky trembled, and even the thick dark clouds were scattered. The Demon King casually grabbed the little monkey's Jingu staff and stared at him with disdain. This is interesting. It's actually a creature nurtured by the heavens. Was it born to deal with the upcoming calamity? Hee hee. With just a casual glance, the Demon King had already figured out the origin of the little monkey. The little furry monkey was also very shocked at this moment, and immediately realized that he was in big trouble this time and had to escape as soon as possible. The little furry monkey's thoughts quickly spun. Unfortunately, the Demon King had already taken a fancy to him. A huge palm instantly grabbed him firmly. The Demon King stuck out its tongue and licked its lips before saying, "As a creature nurtured by the heavens, you should be honored to be the first one to be eaten by me, ha ha." As soon as it finished speaking, the Demon King suddenly opened its mouth wide, picked up the little monkey and put him into its mouth, wanting to swallow him. At the critical moment, a sword shot out and stabbed the Demon King's abdomen. After seeing that its meal was being disturbed by someone, the Demon King instantly looked over with an icy gaze. Then, it saw a figure flying over quickly and grabbing the little monkey. Just as it was about to stop the person, terrifying flames flew toward it, causing its expression to change drastically. It's actually the heaven-burning flames. The Demon King exclaimed. It did not dare to touch the flames that Feng Xian had released and quickly dodged the attack. After the heaven-burning flames had been extinguished, Zhu Yuyu and the little monkey managed to escape. This is interesting. Has the heaven-burning flames appeared again? At this moment, the Demon King recovered from its shock. It looked curiously at Feng Xian, who was not far away. Boom. Accompanied by a series of booming sounds, this group of genius disciples simultaneously escaped from the shackles that bound them. As fellow geniuses, since Feng Xian and Zhu Yuyu were able to escape, they would naturally be able to do the same. The moment they escaped from the imprisonment, they wanted to escape this place. However, they were shocked that the space around them seemed to have transformed into a cage, and they could not escape no matter how hard they tried. At this moment, the atmosphere turned solemn. The pale Demon King remained silent as it looked at its captives. Zhu Yuyu had gone all out to save the little monkey just now as a way to repay his kindness for saving her earlier. However, at this moment, she could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Clearly, she had been severely injured while she saved the little monkey. First sister, how do you feel? Feng Xian immediately came forward. The little furry monkey did not know what to do at this moment and stood there helplessly. Seeing this scene, Feng Xian looked at the little monkey angrily and said, if you don't have the strength to beat it, why did you have to show off? You even got my sister injured. At this moment, the little monkey was at a loss for words. After all, he knew that it was indeed Zhu Yuyu and Feng Xian who had risked their lives to save him. He scratched the back of his head. This was the first time in his life that he felt like he owed someone other than his teacher something. He did not know what to do. I know how to repay kindness. You risked your lives to save me just now, but I don't know how to repay you. After a moment of hesitation, the little monkey handed the pill to Zhu Yuyu and said, I'll give this pill to you. After all, I don't want to owe anyone a favor. 981 Joining hands to fight the enemy. Zhu Yuyu was stunned when she saw the little monkey handing the pill to her. She had thought that the little monkey was very irritable and would not be so approachable. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Unexpectedly, this little monkey was actually so pure and innocent. He would definitely repay anyone who helped him. Even though the pill was valuable, he did not even blink and simply gave it away. First sister, you should take it. After all, this is a critical moment and there's no time to delay. Besides, your body has already been invaded by its killing intent. If you don't bring it under control quickly, your life will be in danger. Feng Xingyan was also extremely talented in alchemy, and had some knowledge in medicine, so she immediately figured out Zhu Yuyu's current condition. Fortunately, the reason why the little furry monkey had chosen to give her this pill was that it had a great effect on eliminating the killing intent in her body. It could save her. Fairy, quickly consume this pill. I'll protect you so you can refine it safely. After hearing this, Zhu Yuyu did not think too much about it and immediately consumed the pill. Seconds later, she felt a terrifying amount of energy surge into her body, instantly eliminating the invading killing intent. Furthermore, the pill's medicinal effects helped her stabilize and improve her physique. The atmosphere at the scene became even more tense while this was happening. The Demon King was still constantly observing the descendants with powerful bloodlines. These fellows felt extremely uncomfortable at this moment, and they were all on tenterhooks. However, the situation had already developed to this point. No matter how they tried, they could not escape. Thus, the Golden Tiger was the first to stand up and say, all of us have a common enemy now. Why don't we put aside our differences for now and fight this enemy together? After hearing this suggestion, many of them expressed their agreement. It was obvious that they were all in this together, and no one wanted to be eaten by that terrifying Demon King. If they did not stick together now, they would all die, and no one would be able to escape. The only chance at survival was to work together and beat this Demon King. Although the chances of their success were not high, it was better than being devoured here. Alright, let's join forces and kill the demon. After hearing these words, everyone's blood began to boil. They were all young people, so how could they be afraid of a battle? Just as everyone was thinking about fighting against the enemy together, the old man from the immortal divine sect suddenly attacked and made a hole in the demon's domain. Then, he carried Gongsun Ji with him and fled. When people noticed this, they immediately wanted to escape through the hole, but the hole instantly recovered. Damn it, that old man is also a coward. He only knows how to pick on the weak and bully us juniors. The old man's actions were ridiculed by all the disciples present. The reputation of the Immortal Palace also suffered serious damage. At this critical moment, everyone was concerned about themselves. After all, no one knew what this terrifying demon king would do later. The atmosphere at the scene became even more tense, and it was so quiet that one could even hear a pin drop. They all stared at the demon king in the sky, afraid that it would attack the very next moment. Then, the demon king in the forbidden area suddenly clapped its hands. Good, very good. With so many noble bloodlines present, there will definitely be some with immortal bones and precious heavenly treasures. He, it's a buffet beyond my wildest expectations. You are going to become seeds to nourish a brand new era. One where I will reign supreme. The smile on the demon king's face became even more bloodthirsty. It looked up at the sky and instantly released its monstrous killing intent. This sudden change in the situation caused all of the cultivators present to turn pale. Were they all going to die here? I've been sleeping in this endless abyss for tens of thousands of years. I don't even remember what blood tastes like. My children, come out, show these people the power of our dark clan. After he finished speaking, a dense cloud of strange monsters suddenly emerged from his body. Each of these monsters had a mouth full of fangs, and desperately rushed towards the crowd. A great battle was about to break out. Seeing this, the expressions of many disciples changed drastically. They did not dare to let their guard down and began to activate their trump cards. As the densely packed creatures were charging over, the little monkey bravely stood in front of Zhu Guoyu and wiped out all of the enemies with his Jingu staff. All of you, get lost. At this moment, the little furry monkey's fighting spirit had been ignited. He had to protect Zhu Guoyu, who was behind him, and Feng Xian, who was helping Zhu Guoyu recover. His originally small body instantly swelled up, transforming into a huge and imposing monkey king. He stretched out his hands and continuously beat his chest. Augmented by the Jingu staff, the little monkey had become an invincible god of war. None of these strange monsters could withstand a single strike from him. He. An extremely cold voice suddenly rang out. Then, an extremely ugly monster covered in red hair emerged. Judging from its appearance, one could immediately tell that this monster was a terrifying enemy, and was far more powerful than the monsters they had faced so far. Move aside. Let me taste how delicious a monkey nurtured by the heavens is. He. As soon as he finished speaking, the Dark Clan's commander approached the little monkey. With a wave of his hand, a long saber appeared. Without saying another word, he immediately activated his killer move and attacked the little monkey, the long saber condensing into a divine dragon. Violent power surged out, and a great battle instantly erupted. 982 help is here. The little monkey was shocked. He had not expected this red-haired monster to also be a sealed immortal realm expert. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Furthermore, this monster's moves were very strange, so the little monkey found himself not being able to react in time. Fortunately, the little monkey's body was very sturdy and tough, so he was able to fight evenly with the strange monster. At this moment, the battlefield had already become extremely chaotic. Every cultivator was currently fighting with the monsters, and techniques and divine powers were flying everywhere. As for the Demon King, it had already set its eyes on Zhu Guoyu and Feng Xian and was slowly approaching them. I really did not expect that the heaven-burning flames would actually appear in this world. This is really quite strange. As the Demon King continued to approach them, Feng Xian held her breath nervously. If it was a normal monster, she would still have ways to deal with it. However, this Demon King was so powerful that it felt hopeless. Could it be that she was really going to be swallowed by this Demon King? Feng Xian also felt extremely indignant at this moment, and also felt extremely sad when she saw geniuses being defeated by the monsters one after another and losing their lives. No one had expected that such a terrifying Demon King would be sealed in this space. Thanks to the little monkey's carelessness, this evil had been unleashed upon the world. At this moment, the little monkey felt extremely guilty. He also wanted to make up for his mistakes and kill this Demon King, but he did not possess the strength to change this situation. Little girl, are you ready to die? After hearing the Demon King's words, Feng Xian trembled violently. She asked, "Who exactly are you?" "You're asking who I am." The Demon King looked at the endless skies at this moment. He smiled and said, "I am the king of the Dark Clan, so you can call me the Dark King." At this moment, the Demon King seemed to be immersed in the past. Feng Xian felt disgusted at this moment. When she saw that Zhu Yuyu had still not woken up, she felt even more nervous. She wanted to drag things out. However, based on the current situation, no matter how long she dragged it out, it probably would not change anything. Haha, don't struggle anymore. Although the heaven-burning flames in your body are extremely powerful, it's also a great tonic for me. Be obedient and become my snack. The Dark King smiled wickedly and walked toward Feng Xian. His sinful hands reached out to grab her. Looking at this scene, Feng Xian no longer felt any hope. She felt extremely unwilling as scenes from the past flash across her mind. She looked sadly at Zhu Yuyu, who was still unconscious. "First sister, no matter what happened before, you would shelter me from the wind and rain without hesitation. Now, let me shelter you from the wind and rain once," Feng Xian murmured softly. Feng Xian stood in front of Zhu Yuyu after she said that. A ball of burning flames instantly appeared in her palm as she spoke coldly, "Bring it on." After saying this, Feng Xian stared at the Demon King in front of her. Seeing him reaching out his hand to attack her, she instantly threw out the heaven-burning flames in her hand. The burning flames were instantly extinguished by the Dark King. It was completely useless. Then, just as she gave up all hope, a series of cries were suddenly heard from afar. What exactly is going on? Everyone on the battlefield looked over at the same time. After all, this was very likely to be their only hope of survival. Moments later, beams of golden divine light flashed, causing the originally dark world to be filled with colors again. The murderous aura also dissipated significantly. Isn't that the nine-tailed sparrow? At this moment, everyone was extremely surprised. No one had expected that the nine-tailed sparrow would suddenly appear here at such a critical moment. The moment the nine-tailed sparrow appeared, a few figures flickering with divine light appeared in the distance again. All of them released terrifying auras. Looking at this scene, everyone felt very excited. They had not expected that someone would actually rush over to save them. The nine-tailed sparrow's seven-colored divine light shattered the Dark King's cage, and several experts rushed in, turning the tides of the battle. After noticing this scene, the Dark King frowned. However, he did not panic. Instead, he soon smiled again. "Haha, interesting, interesting. More snacks have arrived." Looking at the experts in the distance, the Dark King asked disdainfully, "Do you think that you can defeat me with your weak strength?" Hearing this, the elder standing at the front smiled and replied, "We definitely have no way to defeat you, but there will still be someone who can." "Oh, what do you mean?" The Dark King was confused. The next moment, a sword that released blood-red light gave him the answer when it flew toward him. In an instant, the world fell silent. A blood-red divine light instantly filled the entire world, driving away the darkness. Even though the Dark King was surprised, he reacted instantly, and blocked the sword with his palm. After the blood-red sword turned around, it landed steadily in the hands of a white figure. "Teacher." Upon seeing his arrival, Feng Xian immediately shouted excitedly, her eyes glowing once again. In the sky, the nine-tailed sparrow cried out once again, releasing bursts of seven-colored divine light that drove away the strange monsters. At the same time, more and more experts rushed over, including many experts of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. "Aren't you being a little rude? Someone as ancient as you actually dared to target a junior. Let us old men play with you first." 983 Great Battle. Gao Shun cursed the Dark King fiercely. Seeing so many geniuses die, even if they were not disciples of the Great Wilderness God Sect, he still felt very sad. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Almost all the experts who had rushed over looked furious. After all, these fallen geniuses could be said to be the hope of their sects. It was the existence of these talented disciples that made the era even more brilliant. In the struggle for the path of immortality, perhaps a portion of disciples would die, but the vast majority of disciples would be able to fight their way and emerge as pillars of their sects. If they died in a battle with their peers, they could only blame themselves for being incompetent. However, it was different now. The Dark King was simply slaughtering geniuses and the future of an entire era. This newly emerged Dark King wanted to kill all of these talented disciples to strengthen his Dark Clan, so how could they let this matter go? If he really succeeded, then the cultivation world of the entire mystic world would probably be set back thousands of years. If these geniuses were really killed, who would support this era when the older generation gradually grew old and passed away? This was why Gao Shun had stood up without any hesitation to curse the Dark King hysterically. It was not only him, as the others immediately followed suit. Ha ha, Taoist Gao of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect is right. Are you so proud of yourself just because you can suppress these juniors? If you really have the ability, then come and deal with us, the older generation. After saying this, a thin old man also flung his sleeves and started to stretch his body. Old demon, I haven't exercised my muscles for more than 100 years. Today, you've successfully provoked the anger of the older generation. Hearing these shouts, the young geniuses present were extremely excited. Help had arrived. The helplessness they felt earlier dissipated. Honestly, it was not something that they wanted to experience again. Seeing this scene, the Dark King frowned. However, he soon regained his composure. No matter what, he was confident in his own combat strength. Haha, interesting, interesting. Do you really want to be my enemy? After hearing these words, Gao Shun started cursing again. So what if I'm your enemy? Do you think I'm scared? At this moment, these experts could no longer suppress the anger in their hearts, and wanted to attack immediately. If the nine-tailed sparrow had not noticed the situation here in time, perhaps all of the genius disciples would have been slain by this bastard. It just so happened that the nine-tailed sparrow had passed by this place as she was searching for treasures in other places in the ancient palace. However, when she was about to rush to the upper level, she sensed the movement of the old man from the immortal divine sect as he escaped the cage, and thus came over to investigate. After examining the cage for a while, she realized that a terrifying massacre was happening inside. Then, as she was about to leave and call for reinforcements, she happened to meet Yizan and the others who had just escaped from the cave, so she told Yizan about this matter. Then, she hurriedly ran over and called for the top experts of the other sects and forces to hurry over and help. After returning to the scene, she immediately used her innate ability to break the seal keeping the cage from outside interference. The atmosphere here became even more solemn at this moment. After many experts from the various forces discovered that their sect's genius disciples had already suffered casualties, each and every one of them looked furious. Looking at their angry faces, the Dark King was not afraid at all. He even laughed out loud. Then, he stretched his muscles and bones, making crackling sounds. Then, he said teasingly, "All right, since things have come to this, bring it on." Back then, they worked together like you to seal me here in this dark place. Our dark clan has returned to the mystic world this time to take revenge on you. You are the descendants of that generation. Since they are no longer around, you will bear my wrath in their place. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely terrifying aura instantly spread out, causing everyone to feel a chill. A great battle was about to begin. However, due to the cooperation of many experts, the scene was no longer a one-sided massacre like before. Let's fight a refreshing battle today. I have already forgotten how long it has been since I last fought seriously. Today, I will let you see just how powerful I was in my prime. The scene instantly became chaotic. Many members of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect immediately joined the battle and joined forces to kill the strange monsters. However, while everyone was busy fighting, only two people remained where they were. They were Yizan and the Dark King. After sizing each other up for a moment, the Dark King finally spoke. "This is interesting. I seem to sense an extremely familiar feeling from your body. It seems to be from an old acquaintance of mine." Hearing this, Yizan couldn't help but smile and say, "Is that so? Why do I sense a lingering fear in your eyes? You should be quite afraid of this old acquaintance, right?" The Dark King was instantly filled with anger and gritted his teeth and roared, "Shut up. I'm the Nether King, omnipotent throughout heaven and earth. Who is qualified to make me afraid?" Yizan waved his hand and said casually, "Oh. But your situation makes me think otherwise. I mean, if you were omnipotent, you wouldn't be stuck behind that seal, right?" Ha ha ha. After hearing this, the Dark King did not get angry. Instead, he smiled and looked at Yizan silently. He had discovered earlier that Yizan had already reached the Eternal Realm. If his strength was at its peak, he would definitely be able to easily defeat Yizan with one hand. However, he could not do so now. 984 Ascension. Even though his strength was not what it had been, the Dark King was still full of confidence. If he swallowed more blood essence, he would be able to mark a full recovery, especially if he managed to devour Yizan. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. His own cultivation might even be able to advance further. Of course, Yi Zan noticed the greed in the Dark King's eyes, and felt a chill run down his spine. Then, he raised the god's sword in his hand and said, "It looks like you really want to devour me, but the god's sword of mine is also thirsting for your blood." Seeing the sword in Yi Zan's hand, the Dark King felt some lingering fear. However, the arrow was already on the bowstring, so he had no choice but to commit to the fight. He did not waste any more words and immediately attacked Yi Zan. His huge demonic claw came flying toward Yi Zan. Yi Zan was already prepared as he swung the god's sword to meet the attack. The power both parties unleashed was extremely shocking. After a fierce collision, both of them involuntarily retreated, but Yi Zan clearly retreated a little further. However, Yi Zan still did not have any intention of cowering at this moment. Instead, he became even more excited. "Ha ha ha, is that all you have?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zan used the stellar sword technique without hesitation, and thousands of sword beams condensed in the sky. Moments later, these powerful sword beams attacked the Dark King from every direction. The Dark King did not sit idly by either. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and formed a barrier. He could not help but size up the young man in front of him again. He was extremely surprised. It was obvious that he had underestimated this young man's strength. Following that, the two of them fought back and forth and exchanged over 100 blows. As time passed, Yi Zan began to gradually gain the advantage over the Dark King. On the other side of the battlefield, once the experts from the older generation joined the fray, the strange monsters were gradually pushed back, and were now on the back foot. After sensing this situation, the Dark King erupted with even more strength, which made the fight between him and Yi Zan even more intense. Yi Zan did not hesitate to use the shadow of the Sky God, wanting to get rid of this Demon King in the shortest time possible. At this moment, the entire ancient palace was trembling violently, as if it would be shattered by the shockwaves generated by the battle between the two of them. More and more experts joined the battlefield. After all, the commotion caused by the battle here was too big to ignore. Even Chu Badian and the other leaders and elders of the various sects had rushed over. After gaining a general understanding of the situation, they immediately joined the fray, resulting in a one-sided slaughter of the Dark Clan's monsters. After exchanging over 1,000 blows, Yi Zan decided to use the 9th move of the Stellar Sword technique, even though he had yet to fully grasp it. If he couldn't kill them in one strike, then the situation would be difficult to deal with. On the other side, the Dark King was also considering whether he should use his ultimate skill, especially when he saw the members of his Dark Clan dying left and right. "Haha, it seems you are worth fighting. Let's decide the winner in one move." After saying these words in a heroic manner, the Dark King began to gather his power. There was no way that Yi Zan would back down from this, so he immediately gathered his power and prepared to unleash the 9th move of the Stellar Sword technique. As the two titanic techniques condensed, the entire ancient palace began to shake violently. Many people lost their balance, and could not even stand steadily. Thunderclouds rolled in the sky as if it was the end of the world. Seeing such a shocking scene, everyone held their breaths in anticipation and terror. Moments later, a huge explosion erupted, and it was as if a bomb had gone off. Everyone felt a buzzing sound in their ears. A bright light flashed, and they could no longer see what was going on. When the light dissipated, there was only a white figure left in the sky. The Dark King's figure had long disappeared. In an instant, earth-shattering shouts rang out. "Sword Immortal Yi! Sword Immortal Yi!" In fact, Yi Zan's current condition was not very good. The power in his body could no longer be suppressed. He had already been summoned by the heavenly Tao world and could no longer stay in this world. After forcefully suppressing his aura and recovering slightly, Yi Zan immediately went over to Zhu Yuyu and Feng Xian and looked at the two of them with relief. This situation had happened too suddenly, so Yi Zan was not prepared at all. However, he had no choice in the matter. "Yuyu, Xian, I'm afraid I'll have to go to the heavenly Tao world soon. I'll leave Cloud Sky Peak to the two of you. Your little junior sister is still unconscious, but she will probably wake up in another year or two. When that happens, she will either reach the sealed immortal realm immediately, or even higher. You have to cultivate well in this world and strive to ascend to the heavenly Tao world as soon as possible. I will pave the way for you and wait for your arrival. Yanran should be in a critical state of cultivation right now. Perhaps she will also go to the heavenly Tao world in a few days." After hearing this, Zhu Yuyu and Feng Xian started to cry. They did not know what to say and could only sob. Turning around, Yi Zan went over to Ao Lei and gave him some instructions. He then handed over a portion of the treasures he had set aside for the development of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. He had already prepared the cultivation resources for his 2 disciples in advance. It was enough for them to advance to the peak of the sealed immortal realm. The rest would depend on their luck. After dealing with everything, Yi Zan casually waved his hand and instantly dealt with the remaining strange monsters on the battlefield, removing the remaining threat. Before leaving this place, Yi Zan rubbed the heads of his 2 disciples reluctantly. Then, his figure flashed and he instantly left this place. However, he did not ascend to the heavenly Dao world immediately. Instead, he went over to a certain place and unleashed his vast power to instantly drag Gongsun Ming out. Faced with the power of an Eternal Realm expert, Gongsun Ming, who was only a half step away from the Eternal Realm, was easily defeated. After dealing with this person, Yi Zan was relieved. After all, if he ascended and left this person in the mystic world, a great disaster would definitely befall the Great Wilderness Divine Sect and his disciples. Thus, he had to deal with him so that he could head to the heavenly Dao world in peace. Before he left, Yi Zan looked around him longingly. Looking at this world, he recalled his old friends, and seemed very reluctant to part with them. However, he could only cherish these memories silently in his heart. Immediately after, a vast power descended from the heavens, instantly enveloping Yi Zan and teleporting him to the heavenly Dao world. Little did he know that a great battle was waiting for him in the heavenly Dao world. Battle was waiting for him in the heavenly Dao world. Battle was